Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast, and today I have something very special for you. The full Kaldheim card image gallery is now up over on dailymtg.com, and now that all the cards are known, I thought it would be fun to start cracking open some products. So if you look back here, I've got a little bit of everything. I've got collector boosters, I've got set boosters, I've got theme boosters, I've got pre-release packs, I've got commander decks, and of course, I have an old standby right here, the draft boosters. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to crack open all 36 of these draft boosters live and on camera. It might be a little bit rough around the edges because there'll be no cuts, but that's also a bit of the fun. Then on Friday, I'm going to come back and open up one or maybe even more of these other products. Which do you want to see the most? Let me know in the comments down below. In the meantime, though, I'm really excited to bring you the first ever anywhere box opening of Kaldheim. I've never opened up a pack of this, so let's do it. Here we go. All right, everyone, here we go. Kaldheim booster box of draft boosters. Looks a little something like this. Your victory has been foretold. Also, what's a draft booster? Thanks for letting me know, box. Well, I think the first thing we should do is take off this wrapper. I'm so excited, so normally when sets start coming in, we get samples and we get to open up. But of course, because we've all been working from home, I haven't ever seen a real Kaldheim sample. So this is so exciting. Actually, my first booster anywhere. All right, so this little top I'll put up here. Set this over to the side so it stays in view. But all right, and here we go. We got 3 Kayas right on top. And I guess without further ado, let's crack this thing open. I guess if anyone wanted to see here is what it says on the back. Your victory has been foretold. It was kind of covered up before. But let's actually crack into this and see what's inside my first ever Kaldheim booster pack. Here we go, Kaldheim draft booster. Gonna be hard to top the Commander Legends video that I did where I opened up a foil Mana Drain in like my second or third pack. So let's see what we get. All right, up first. And I'm just gonna kind of talk through the cards a little bit as I open them, and then of course, once you see the card multiple times, let's get through it. Here's our first Foretell card. So this is pretty exciting. This is not this card in particular, this is like a limited card, whatever. But the Mechanic Foretell I think is pretty exciting. We've tried something like this for a very long time. I made a video about this recently where it was originally in Amonkhet as plot, and then even Rosewater had tried it a while back based on something from the Star Wars trading card game. So super cool to have that here. And it's nice to have the flexibility of splitting up your mana, right? Because this is 6 mana here, but if you foretell it on turn 2 and then foretell it on turn 4 by casting it, that's actually pretty good. 4 mana, 3/6 vigilance, and maybe you didn't have a 2-drop anyway, so not too shabby. All right, strategic planning. This is a great reprint. This was originally, I think, from one of the Portal sets, maybe Portal 3 Kingdoms, and it shows up again here in Kaldheim. And of course, now the planning you're doing with it is much different. We've got Knotvold Recluse. Now, this is a very unusual spider, in that it has more power than toughness. Most spiders do not do that, have more power than toughness. But this one does. John Becker, famous spider lover, will be very sad. Sorry, John. Still has reach, though. Draugr Recruiter. So here we get to the first Boast card. I made a video on Boast a few days ago. We tried a lot of different ways to show off attacking in this set. The original kind of Viking mechanic was about exiling cards from your graveyard as like a funerally pyre thing, which kind of encouraged attacking, except if you were both playing decks with it, and then no one wanted to risk attacking and trading. So when Dave Humphries took over the set, he put this in as sort of like a raid variant, and it can be a lot of fun. Another Foretell card featuring Nico Eris, who I hope we get to them later on. I'd love to open up a copy of Nico. They're one of our brand new Planeswalkers here, and this is going to be a powerhouse card. I would expect to see a lot of this one. Foretelling it away and then scrying and drawing later is pretty sweet. Grizzled Outrider. 5 mana, 5/5 vanilla. It used to be a rule that when you're making a new set, every color had to have 1 vanilla. We've relaxed that a little bit now. It's not quite as true as it used to be, but still, it's nice to see a vanilla like this getting the job done. It's an elf also, so it's not entirely a vanilla, right? Like that elf does some work in this set. There's a bit of elf travel going on. Revitalize. This is a card that, I think we printed for the first time only a few years ago, and it's gone on to do some pretty good stuff for us. It shows up every now and then in Constructed. It's kind of a nice little cantrip to have around it in Limited. Helps sometimes spell strategies works, right, if you're trying to cross into white. So, cool. And happy to reprint it here. Cool new artwork on it, too. Carfell Kennel Master. A fun fact a lot of people may not realize if you haven't been playing for that long is when Indestructible came out in Darksteel, that was like a huge deal, right? That was the first set to have Indestructible. And it was on mostly like rares and uncommons, only on a few cards. And then you had, like Darksteel Ingot and Darksteel Pendant at common. And it was like, wow, this thing is not used very often. It's very, very rare, very hard to come by. Now we're at the point where Indestructible is pretty everyday. You see this kind of thing a lot. And personally, I'm happy that we do that. It allows for a really cool way to say, let your creatures attack safely in black. So cool little zombie berserker here. Oh, this one's a fun little foretell card. This guy you can foretell on turn 2 and then play for free on turn 3. So it's a great way to really set up your aggro strategy in Limited by, you can't attack with your Grizzly Bear right away, but you can get a 2/3 in any color a turn after, or later in the game, just cast it on turn 3 for 3 mana. It's totally fine. Okay, super exciting. Speaking of Nico Eris, here is our first Saga. Saga is a mechanic that we debuted in Dominaria. Kind of the original idea came from Richard Garfield, which is super exciting. It was a huge hit in Dominaria. They all went over super well. We brought it back in Theros, where it did very well too. And now I think it's at the point where kind of any set where it makes sense to use Sagas, we're going to put them. Good places for it are especially planes we've been to before, because there's story there that you already recognize. It's fun to do sagas about things that you might already know. Also on brand new planes, it's a great way to show off the history of that world, right? So it can kind of fit anywhere as long as they make sense within the set themes. And of course, with the word saga, this has made so much sense here because sagas are literally a Norse thing. Like everyone talks about the Norse sagas. So super cool to have those back here. Batter Shield Warrior, another boast card. Great to make your limited deck work here. Pump up all your creatures. Good for the aggro deck. There's a pretty aggressive boast deck in this format. I remember that from drafting. Cost 1 less if you control a giant or a wizard. So a little bit of tribal going on. Changeling is back, which we'll get to in a little bit. This is I love cards that want you to collect multiple copies of a card or any kind of like a little drafting mini game. So this card is especially fun to me of like, okay, it's really good if I draft a bunch of cards that all have the same name, right? So if I get 3 of the same removal spell or something, it's pretty saucy. So this is a fun little draft mini game I'll be thinking about and playing. Woohoo! Not bad for a first booster pack. Arnie Brokenbow right here. In the special new showcase frame. So you'll notice all the legendary creatures in this set have this frame. This is really inspired by Norse myth and Norse legend, and James Arnold knocked it out of the park on this one. He did a fantastic job making this happen, and he actually was inspired by the frame by going to, I believe, a Nordic museum, and he came up with some of the ideas for this. So that's super cool. And this is a card, if you were playing any kind of boast deck, this is a great card to have in. 3 mana, 3/3 haste, already great. Plus the boast ability is pretty nice too. Like in Limited, it's great, but also in Constructed, I think this card has plenty of potential power. One interesting thing that I'm noticing here and is that there's a bunch of cards left in this booster. So I think they might have a special foil here. Let's see what shows up. We've got Snow-Covered Island, right? So we've got a Snowland in the pack. Snow is back, and there's that new frame that we talked about with Daniel Holt the other day. So you can check that out. Hope we open up some foil Snow cards, because those I bet will really look hot. Whoa! Yep, there we go. Check this out. We have opened up a awesome showcase card in the in foil, which super happy to crack that right here. That is a great first open, and what a cool looking card to do it in too. Man, this looks so fantastic. I'm just gonna let that go across the card a little bit. See how that highlights on the foil? That is so freaking cool. Oh, I love it. This is like I said, it's true joy for me. I've never opened up a Kaldheim booster. I've never seen this frame in person. So getting to do this now is you're getting my unadulterated joy. I could just sit here for another 2 or 3 minutes and go back and forth like this, but I won't. And then you get the newfangled checklist card. So that was a pretty saucy first booster here. Nothing to complain about right there. Very cool. All right, well, let's move on to the next pack here. Let's go ahead and grab this guy. By the way, this is intentionally, of course, works with commander gameplay, right? Whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, hey, that includes the command zone. So this nice little 3-mana 2/2 commander is a really good way to draw cards early on in a commander game. And then, of course, you can build around foretell and rebound and all kinds of stuff. So I know I'm a big fan of this guy. Uncommon Legends is a thing that we do a lot more than we used to, and especially in a set like this with so many legendary cards or legendary tales we wanted to tell. It made a lot of sense to do here. So anyway, a lot more packs to get through. I know from last time I'll end up with an hour-and-a-half video, although a lot of, if I'm not careful, although a lot of people really like that. So who knows? We'll see what happens this time around. Well, that was an exciting first pack. Let's hop in here. Brine Barrow Intruder. You know, this is the kind of card which is never really like super thrilling in limited, but can do some pretty good work as a combat trick / creature. Also note that rogue creature type, which, I don't know, maybe this will slot into some, probably not top level rogue decks from Zendikar, but any, kitchen table ones people are trying to build up could potentially play this card. It's worth noting, I think it's interesting that the one thing we try and do between sets is find ways to loop the themes together. And so here we've got rogue as a returning thing, or the thing that we, are using a little bit more of because of Zendikar, potentially. So that's cool. Another boast card using the card draw ability that we put in red. This is a pretty good one, right? It's pretty easy to make this draw you a card when it attacks, and then if you can get multiple attacks with it, it draws you cards. So it's like a scroll thief in a way that has 3 power. So yeah, this is a hot common you'll want for your limited deck. A nice snow enchantment. Using that super type to good advantage here. And it makes extra snow mana, which is going to be important for powering out some of your other cards. But also the 3 mana, like this card, this land ramps, it's sort of become a staple of a lot of set design. And you'll tend to see one of these in a lot of different sets. Demonic Gift. Yes, this is also a new kind of thing we've pioneered for black in the last few years with supernatural stamina and cards like that, where it dies and then comes back. And this is really cool because you get to use all your death triggers. And of course, North set, there's plenty of death triggers rolling around. So that's rad. Open the Omen Paths, featuring Tybalt. Of course, maybe we'll get there later, but Tybalt is a cool card to have back here. It is a ritual, which we don't see very often, although it does put you up by only 1 mana, and it is very restrictive mana, but who knows if this will break somewhere. Rituals traditionally have broken in one way or another. Also just pumps up your creatures. Story Spotlight card. Here's another snow card, Yeti. For all those Yeti lovers out there. Yes, we are there, Yeti. Jarl of the Forsaken, which with the comma in there somewhere would be a legendary creature, but I digress. Once again, showing off the variety of things you can do with foretell. It's really fun to have things that want specific situations to foretell away, because then you can leave them off in the corner, and it's like, oh, the thing happened this turn, I can play it. And this is a great example of being able to do just that. Keep in mind that you can flash it, even though it's in exile from foretell, because it's a time that you could play it. So yeah, this guy can come down, and that means that you can, by the way, foretell it on your turn, and then you can play it on your opponent's turn right away. So the it's only 4 mana to do the whole thing. So as long as you don't need it on your turn for some reason, to like kill off a creature they blocked with, it's kind of a free roll just to foretell it and then pass to your opponent's turn. So pretty nice one. Raven Wings. Yes, very nice. I think this was previewed by Zbex, so great work to Zbex for the preview. That one was really fun. She had a really cool looking outfit. Anyway, equipment and vehicles are things that are both important in Norse mythology, and we wanted to make sure there were some here. This one makes it a bird, which is pretty fun. There's probably a story here that I don't know from Norse mythology. One thing we found is that, the surface level Norse myths, a lot of people know, but there's some deeper ones that, many people don't, so you gotta go digging a little bit. And I don't know this one, but there's probably a good reason. In any case, it's cool that it makes you a bird. That's fun. Rise the Draugr. Yeah, this is the kind of card, we've made a lot of variants on this in recent years. It's hard to make a single Raise Dead good enough for limited play, but a Raise Dead with a bonus can be a pretty interesting card. And so you've seen a lot of variants on this kind of thing. Like there's one for pirates, and I think there's one for zombies, ghoul caller's call, ghoul chanter's call, something like that. Definitely not ghoul caller's call. Anyway, this is a staple, and especially with changeling rolling around, which you'll see later, this makes a ton of sense. It's really good in the changeling deck. Nice reprint. Finding reprints with flavorful names that can go into a new set is always feels like a big win as a designer, right? When you're like, oh my gosh, I have the perfect reprint for this set. It's always really cool when you discover that. And of course, in a set with gods and lots of divine stuff going on, Invoke the Divine is a great reprint that, something that every set needs, a Disenchant style variant. On to the uncommons now. We've got Basalt Ravager, which caring about creature types, by the way, which is a thing that you'll see a little bit of. There's a bit of tribal here. There's some giant tribal and some elf tribal, and of course, you've got your changelings making everything awesome too. Legendary creatures. Lots of legends rolling around in this set. Just Norse mythology was a great opportunity to do a ton of legends and make some cool uncommons as well. I often think uncommon commanders are really neat because a lot of times you're making like a rare commander, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's got to be flashy and do all this stuff. But with uncommon commanders, you can make them really straightforward, or a little more straightforward anyway than some other ones. Now this one does have a bit going on, but ultimately it's about playing your second spell every turn. And when you do, you get to draw a card, which is pretty cool. I don't know if this will necessarily be helming a commander deck of mine anytime soon, but it's something you could certainly think about doing, building a fun deck around. And especially if you're trying to build like an uncommon common commander deck, or Pauper's peasant style commander deck, this is a really cool card to consider and gives white-black some legs. Draugr's Helm. Speaking of equipment, this is a colored equipment. We started doing colored cards only, or colored artifacts only recently, really, if you don't count Alara. And there was some concern originally that they would blend too much like enchantments, but they let us do some really unique stuff, equipment being one of them. So colored equipment is great because equipment traditionally has been too powerful, right? You make a Volshock Morningstar and every deck wants to take it all the time. Well, when you make it a colored card, well, that's really nice because it means that it only goes into black decks, so it's a little harder, or whatever color it is. So it's a little harder to make sure, oh, this equipment will just go into every deck, and maybe you end up splashing for it if you really want it, or it just floats to the player who wants it and it's actually good for. So happy to do that here, and it's a cool new card. Old Growth Troll. This is an exciting one. I know this raised a lot of eyebrows when it was previewed. When it dies, it comes back to the battlefield as an aura enchantment, which is always just a wonky line of text to read. I love, the fact that we're nearly 30 years into this game and we're still doing all kinds of wonky stuff like this. Makes me smile a lot. And you haven't really seen much like this before. So it's a cool card. Sulphurous Mire, right? So sometimes in the slot you will get a dual land. The decision to do land types or not, yeah, this was talked about for a while, and eventually we decided on yes, put land types on these, and I'm so glad we did because players have seemed to really receive them quite well. It's cool that you can, fetch land for these or Farseek for them or what have you, and I'm excited to see what this kind of thing does. And these will, I think, show up in constructed play almost assuredly. And then a treasure token at the end. Check out that treasure. And if you want to go to Friday Night Magic, here's how you do it. Which hopefully someday soon we'll be able to do. I miss all that. I also realized last time I got some comments about putting my rares in a separate pile, so I'm learning here. I'm learning. I'm gonna put my rares and my sweet foil over here, and put everything else in this one pile. If you have any thoughts, especially because I'm gonna be doing a lot more of these box opening videos, about how you want the style of them to be, please, leave a comment down below, and I'll read it, take a look at it. If you want them to be faster or slower, or skip over the commons, or sort my cards in a specific way. I know there's a lot of other people who have done box videos for a lot longer than me, and I'm open to learning, right? This is still new for me. So hopefully this time we don't have like huge stacks of cards sloshing around everywhere, though. That was pretty wild in the last one. Okay, Revitalize again. I'm just gonna, I don't know how you ended up over here. Get back over there. Revitalize, I'm gonna skip past you. Another Carful Kennel Master. Oh, it looks like we were seeing some of the same common runs as last time. Okay, here's a new card, the Jasper Sentinel. This is based on, I think Loam Druid is what it was called, from Shadows over Innistrad, and of course Springleaf Drum before that. 1-mana mana elves are really powerful, right? When we reprinted Llanowar Elves, it was a huge standard card. It was a high pick and limited, showed up everywhere. But you don't always want to do a 2-mana elf. So like, what is the gap between the two? And this is interesting in that it's a 1-mana elf, but it doesn't just accelerate you into a 3-drop on turn 2, which is often where a lot of the power of mana elves lie. And, these tend to be a little weaker than the 2-mana just add 1, but if you're going to go wide and play a lot of cheap creatures, they can be pretty good. And in an elf strategy, hey, that makes a lot of sense. This one has the bonus of being having reach too, which I guess you can block a pesky 1/1 flying token or something like that. We also get a lot of value in sets like this out of just putting elf on cards like here. Yeah, it's a little weak at common. It's not going to make your deck all the time. Sometimes it will, but the elf means that a wider variety of decks will want it, and sometimes an elf deck can pick a bunch of these up late, which is really, really nice if your deck wants that kind of thing. Bind the Monster. Yeah, this is a card I think is a popper shot. I mean, we didn't design it as a popper shot, but I think it definitely will show up there. Blue tempo decks. Anyone interested in blue tempo decks? This is a pretty strong card. You'll take some damage to tap their creature, but especially in older formats too, where the creatures tend to be smaller, right? You have Delvers of Secrets running around. A kind of reverse Swords to Plowshares is pretty good. Dismember has seen plenty of play, for example. So this is a great limited pickup. Although it's actually, the damage there is probably more relevant sometimes than in a format like Legacy or Pauper, but it's still a great limited pickup as a 1-mana removal spell. It is, I think, going to be playable in plenty of places, so keep an eye on this one. Not to mention you got all those Theros synergies still rolling around in Standard. A Winddrake with upside. We love Windrakes with upside. 3-mana 2/2 flyers are something that we use as like a kind of a guidepost for a lot of our limited ranking. Like, is a card better than a 3-mana 2/2 flyer, worse than 3-mana 2/2 flyer is one of our metrics. Now we all know that a 3-mana 2/2 flyer is not like a Badonkers card to like write home about, but it's like a pretty solid playable. You'll play a decent amount of the time, and one way to help reinforce the set's themes or certain archetypes is by making one that has a small upside for that archetype, and this is exactly what went on here. There's plenty of artifacts and enchantments rolling around with sagas and everything else. So another scored effigy, hooray! Roots of Wisdom. This is shades of grapple from the past, or grapple the past, whatever that card was called from Shadow's block. But this tries out a cool new thing that we haven't really done before, or haven't done much of anyway. You'll see a little bit of that in the set, which is do a thing like, hey, try and find a card to return. But if you fail, you still get a bonus out of it. There's always this huge feel bad when you cast like a Satyr Wayfinder on turn 2, you flip your 4 cards over because it mills 4, and then you get a land out of them, and then you miss. And it's like, well, I'm supposed to play this card because, 85, 90% of the time, whatever the number is, I'm just making up numbers, which is, reasonable. I think a lot of people probably would make up numbers here. But anyway, I'm making up numbers. Frank Carson, tell me what it actually is. And you just feel like, 10% of the time you get screwed out of a land. This is a way to make sure, hey, you can play this card on turn 2. You're not gonna fail. You're gonna be okay. I think that's a cool twist. Smashing Success. Destroys an artifact or a land, and if you kill off an artifact, you get a treasure. We still make some LD sometimes, as it turns out. It's not the best, admittedly, but if you really got to kill off a problematic land, it's nice to have answers to lands that are going to cause you issues, and as well, I'm sure we'll see later in the box, there are plenty of powerful lands in this set. There's even a cycle of uncommon lands that you can sacrifice for effects. So having a way to destroy a land in a pinch can be useful, and you can sideboard this in against them, or of course destroy artifacts, and there's lots of artifacts running around, equipment, and all that kind of stuff. Kennel Master, we'll skip past you. Can we open one of those up? That's interesting. 2 colorful Kennel Masters, one of them non-foil. Well, sometimes stuff like that happens. It's not necessarily supposed to happen, but they're interesting rarities when they show up. Tergrid Shadow. 5 mana, each player sacrifices 2 creatures, 4/4, 4. Yeah, Barter in Blood is a very powerful card traditionally, because you can play around it and build for it, and you can have a lot of tokens in your deck to sacrifice or whatever. And this is 1 mana more than Barter in Blood, but an instant, which can be a total blowout to cast in the middle of combat or at all kinds of different times. And the foretell on that is just gravy, because often you'll want to, once again, you can foretell it on your turn and then cast it on their turn. And the result of doing that is only 1 more mana for the opportunity cost. So this is a blowout and limited. You'll want to pick this highly. Barter in Blood traditionally has had like a sideways shot at Constructed. This probably will not make it into Standard, but it's still a very powerful card. And of course in Commander, Barter in Blood effects can always be really strong too, because there's a lot more players in the game. So here's another Nico Defies Destiny. super happy to look at another saga here, even though we've seen that one before. Poison the Cup. A lot of old stories involve poisoning cups. I remember Theros had Sip of Hemlock as well. Another cool foretold removal spell. Once again, you kind of pay 1 mana for the opportunity cost of next turn being able to blow up a creature if you need it, because it costs 3 if you cast it from your hand, or 2 and then 3 if you foretell it. And giving that scry 2 is pretty relevant, so you'll put this in the exile zone a lot of the time, I think. Ooh, very nice. We're starting this box off great. Another showcase rare. This time, this is a beloved card. Makes 2 green cats, 2/2 green cats. I love this. It's a great story, and man, that art is awesome. That style on this is so cool. Yeah, this is a rad commander card, and maybe even a rad standard card as well. A 4-mana vehicle that makes 2 tokens when it comes into play, and then can self-populate itself is nothing to shake a stick at. So, yeah, this is cool. And once again, it's a very cool colored vehicle, right? We're seeing that here as a way to make sure that not every vehicle goes into every deck. There are some colorless ones, but all right. And then Snow-Covered Swamp. Hello, Snow-Covered Swamp. And then another treasure token. And on the back, no, way to tell you where stores are if you're totally lost. Okay, on to the next pack. We got 3 Nikos in a row here, so let's crack open our first Nico and see what we find. Oh, that Fibblethip is just staring out from the back. Okay, Doomscar Oracle. There is a bit of a limited archetype that a second spell matters, which is why you're seeing that here. So I think it's, if I remember correctly, I believe it is blue-white second spell matters. Yeah, because blue-white foretell, right? So it's really good to have these with foretell cards, because you don't have to use foretell with them, but you can foretell out of the to make your cards cost less, so you can play 2 spells in a turn a little bit easier. Otherwise, 3 mana 3/2, once again like a normal looted bench post with upside. That foretell is really nice for this deck, especially because you can foretell it and then play it for 1 mana on the next turn, which might trigger a second spell thing. So that's cool. Pilfering Hawk, snow card. Looters are very strong. This is a 1/2 flying looter. And yeah, it requires 1 mana activation, but Merfolk Looter has been a high pick for a very long time. And I think this card is going to be plenty playable, especially because it's just a flyer. It can just plink your opponent away if you need to. So that's great. Tormentor's, oops, come back. Oh no. Well, Tormentor's Helm is on the floor. If we're very careful, see, that was a little bit of a Doomscar right there. I was very Norse on theme for knocking the camera. If that happens more times, it's just flavorful. The realms are mashing together. Tormentor's Helm. Here we are with this one. +1/+1. Another colored equipment. Once again, kind of playing into that a little bit. Is, oh, hey, we're going to give you a little bit of an upgrade over the normal Lean and Scimitar short sword style thing. Anyway, that card was disastrous. Let's get, hopefully we don't drop too many more cards. Icehide Troll. This is a card that you really want your double snow mana for. This is a heavy snow card. If you can do it, it's really good. The ability to pseudo regenerate is extremely powerful. On a card like Cudgel Troll, that was an all-star unlimited in previous times, as an example. But this time around, you need a heavy snow commitment, which, by the way, that's why you might want that green enchantment. Right? That's especially good here. Makes your land tap for 2 mana. Hey, that powers the Icehide Troll automatically. So something to keep in mind as you're drafting. Another Draugr Recruiter, skip past you. Another Ravenwing, skip past you. Struggle for Skemfar. I really hope that someone top decks this to win a big game, because it's just a sweet thing to say. Struggle for Skemfar. Okay. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, then that creature fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. Fight card, 4 mana, hunt the weak, basically, which is great. But the foretell here is once again so impactful, because being able to do something else on the turn that you cast this, like cast your creature, and then for 1 mana, have it fight your opponent's creature, or pump up your creature, something like that. That mana savings is gigantic. And note that, by the way, you are definitely saving a whole mana here if you can just wait to do it. And on turn 2, you're not going to want to fight something anyway normally. So this is a fine card to have around and wait for. This is a nice one. A Null, great reprint. I always love bringing a Null back. I think it first premiered in Urza Block as a way to counter artifacts, and then of course they showed up again as a way to counter enchantments, and now it's back again. It's kind of doing a little bit of both, and of course hitting on Theros a little bit if there are any enchantments running around. So just a great 1 mana reprint. I'll note, by the way, a fun fact about this card is this guy's throwing up the horns right here. You can see that. right there. It's a little bit of the metal vibe, which we've been doing plenty of in our talking about Kaldheim, coming through on an all. Ravenous lindworm, otherwise known to some maybe as honey mammoth, but more wormy. You know, I'll love a good worm. I believe the lindworm is an important thing in Norse mythology as well. So cool to get that kind of showing up here. Even though it's a common, it helps the flavor come through a little bit more. Squash. It's a great name. And once again, you got a bit of that giant tribal rolling on. 2 mana, deal 6 is very nice. And it's got a bit of fun flavor text there too. I think when this one came up in our internal slideshow, there were a lot of comments about people smiling. So good stuff on the squash. Poor little goblin. I would not want to be crushed under that thumb. Carter Doomscourge. Another uncommon legend. Very cool. And this plays right into some of the really aggressive decks going on here. Black-red has the super aggressive bow stack that you can draft, if I remember correctly. So this is a good card pickup in that strategy, and I think this will be a fun commander too. It's really nice to force other players to attack. Goad is a mechanic that I know a lot of people have enjoyed in Commander, and this is pretty spicy, right? You goad all of your opponent's creatures basically, which is a big game for 4 mana, especially if you find a way to reuse it, sacrifice it, and bring it back, or just cast it out of your command zone again. Another thing that you'll note is we started to put some text on cards even in main sets to help you a little better in multiplayer play like Commander, because this attack a player other than you if able is not relevant in a one-on-one game. It's not going to matter when you're drafting Kaldheim. But of course, in Commander, that's a huge difference. So Commander's not going to win out every time, but on a card like this, where it can be so impactful in Commander, I'm really glad we got to add that. Yeah, this is a card I will definitely build a Commander deck around. Sounds like a fun Chaos card. Blood Sky Berserker. Once again, that second spell thing. Maybe it's white-black. Maybe white-black foretell. I don't have limited archetypes in front of me. But anyway, there's a second spell archetype, and this card does it well. Getting bigger, becoming a 3/3 and gaining menace is a pretty big deal, and especially if it grows to 5/5, 7/7 as the game goes on. So, who's next indeed? Replicating Ring. This is a very, very fun one. This is a card that we were smiling a lot at when the idea came up for it, and then we showed it off in the slideshow to everybody. The odds of you getting up to 8 are very low, of course. It's probably not going to happen, but if it does, it's really cool. Or at least if it matters at that point in the game. I think my favorite thing that someone posted with this was putting mechanized production on it from Kaldheim, where if you have 8 or more artifacts with the same name, you win the game. Good little combo there. Heads up to all you Commander players. A Snow Sorcery. So that is something brand new, Snow Spells. And this one cares about, because it's a snow spell, of course, cares about the amount of snow spent to cast it. Cares about snow in some way. And this is a pretty spicy card, giving your creatures a bunch of boosts, and then also drawing you some cards. Got a snow-covered forest, and a troll warrior. Rawr. And Fibblethip's saying hello to us again. 3 green rares so far, so that's interesting. Probably not relevant. Oh, wait, no, I forgot my red. I forgot my red rare. Where'd you go? So again, I want to get all these in a stack. Okay, Arnie Broken Bow. Maybe down here, and then I'll flip through them at the end or something like that. All right, on to the next pack. We've got Haggy Mob, a nice booster. You only activate the ability once, boast only once when it's attacking, but still pinging something is pretty strong. And keep in mind that you can activate this even after combat, so you can see what happens, see how the combat math breaks down, or after it's blocked or whatever, and then deal a damage to win a combat somewhere. So 5/4 with small upside is, it can be a pretty meaningful card, and it's just nice to have a big beater in red decks sometimes. So, good stuff. Master Scald lets you reuse things like sagas, for example. Those tend to go into your graveyard. Plenty of artifacts and enchantments rolling around here, and when you can make this a 5 mana 4/4 that draws you a card, that's better than Kavu Climber because you're getting something back right away. These kind of cards tend to be pretty playable. It is some white card advantage as well, which everyone is always looking for. It's not meant for constructed, but for limited, that's pretty huge for white decks. So, hello, Dwarf. Draugr Thought Thief. These kind of cards are very mean, and we don't do them very often. They can get very frustrating. This is only an ETB trigger, so we thought it'd be okay to do on just the ETB trigger. But for example, as a repeated trigger, hitting your opponent or something like that would be a problem. Lurking Informant is a card from original Ravnica. It was a 2-mana creature. You could tap, I think it was 1 or 2 mana, to look at the top card of a player's library and either leave it there or exile it. And that card was infuriating because your opponent would start controlling your draws. So a little bit of this can be fun. A little bit of Fate Sealing style stuff can be fun, but usually has one-shot effects. So this is something that will allow you to have a little bit of extra play. You can manipulate your own top card. You can mess with your opponent's top card to try and lock them down, or get rid of a bomb or something like that. But you won't see this on a attack trigger, or at least you shouldn't very often repeat it as repeatable. Anyway, it's a cool effect we don't do very often, so I wanted to call it out. Another Demonic Gifts, another Icehide Troll, a Mistwalker. Here we are, finally our first Changeling. So there's not a ton of Changeling in the set, but there's a little bit for flavor. Shapeshifters are a part of Norse lore, and having every creature type is a great way to hold everything together, right? It works really well with all the different tribal decks that I've mentioned already. One interesting thing is that the set used to have a very heavy tribal component. There were all kinds of things that involved you choosing tribes, and honestly, it felt in a lot of ways not unlike Modern Horizons, where you had like shapeshifters as the glue that held a lot of these different tribal decks together. We ended up not going as heavy on tribal, and I think we even dropped a tribal-specific mechanic. But Changeling was just such a great fit and still worked as well with what the set was doing that we kept it all the way around. And this is a really solid limited card. 3-mana 1/4 flyer, blocks well, and then late in the game can attack for 3 or something like that. Plus powers up all your Changeling synergies, so very good. Shimmer Drift Vale, a nice snow land. This is reminiscent of the Thriving Lands we saw in Jumpstart. I've had a few people ask me about, when we made the Thriving Lands. I think I and Rosewater, maybe a couple others, said things along the lines of, we wouldn't want to put a bunch of these in a standard set, or because it might make the decks really soupy to draft. And then people were like, oh, hey, what's up with Shimmer Drift Vale then? My response to that is there's 2 things to note. First of all, 1 is way different than 5. You look at Lorwyn with its 5 vivid lands. That made things very soupy because it was very easy to play whatever colors you wanted with a single vivid land. So we're not eager to do something like that. But doing 1 is a lot more reasonable. Additionally, the delta between choosing 1 color and having a base color plus an extra color is just tremendous, right? This fixes your mana, but it doesn't give you both colors at the same time. So I don't think this will make too many soupy decks, but it does make for a great card to splash with. And you can be very clever and even run, a double splash. And it's like, oh, whatever color I'm missing, I can name it here. So this is cool new technology that Jumpstart kind of pioneered, and I think it's a neat card. Plus it's snow, so into the north for it or what have you. I mentioned earlier with Boast that there was a bit of a mechanic for a while called Pyre that could use cards in your graveyard, creature cards in your graveyard as a bonus or as a, to your advantage. We took out the mechanic, but some of that still remains in the set, and Stalwart Valkyrie is an example of that. As a 2-mana flyer, 3/2 flyer, if you are able to exile a creature from your graveyard. Good with some of the self-mill going on, or just attacking and having your creatures die. Dusk Wielder, once again, this is a cheap elf that is like, oh, the effect is okay. I mean, if you pay 1 mana when it attacks, it's kind of like a 1-mana 2/2, which is certainly good if you're drafting an aggressive deck. But if you're elves, you're really going to want something like this because it helps you hit with your aggressive stuff, but also gets any elf bonuses that you have or sets up your elf cards. Seral's Packmate. This is a card I do not predict I will pass too much. 4-mana 3/3 that draws you a card off the bat is cantripping. Cantripping 3/3 is great. I love cantripping creatures. It's just a guaranteed 2 for 1. This will probably trade it with something as well, so yeah, it's awesome. And then the ability to foretell it on turn 2. You miss out on playing on Grizzly Bear if you have one or whatever, but then you can come down on turn 3, turn 4 as for 2 mana. I mean, that ability to split up your mana like that is really nice. So this is a great green common for limited. Here we are, one of the first of this land cycle. There's one for each color of these ETB tapped lands that tap for a color, and then if you are the other color, you can get a cool effect out of it. I think this is nice because you don't have to have all the colors right away, right? It's not requiring you to sacrifice early on. Normally, you want to do this a little bit later, and it's pretty easy to slot into a deck, right? You can even play a card like this in a deck where you're splashing blue with a straight face because it's a blue source, and then late in the game you can activate its ability. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the cycle. It does some good stuff for limited play. Oh, wow. I love seeing all these showcase cards. This is great. They're so plentiful. Meja, Bredagard Protector. This is definitely a card I think some people will try building around in Commander. It's a little pricey at 5 mana, but the ability to anthem all your stuff, plus make a lot of tokens with ramping, and of course, ramping is a pretty popular thing to do in Commander right here. And then in limited, in green-white, this is just a powerhouse, right? You're going to make a 2/2 every time you play a land. It's going to anthem all your creatures. So if you're green-white, you want this in your deck going wide. Avalanche Caller, making your snowlands creatures. This is always a fun little thing to do. One thing you'll notice on here is it gives it hexproof. It might not seem that relevant, like it's only going to be a creature for a turn, but a really big feel bad with these cards is when you animate your land early or even in the mid game, and then it gets Doombladed or whatever the equivalent is, because you're just down a land, right? That's that LD. So the hexproof is very relevant here. And as a 2-mana 1/3 that can suddenly create an army of 4/4s out of nowhere later, this is a great card for a snow deck. Magda, Brazen Outlaw, goes well with the it's another red rare here. Maybe it goes well with the what's that guy's name? Arnie Brokenbow we saw earlier. Pumps up your dwarves. Dwarf Tribal is a thing that was a hit in Kaladesh. Players loved Dwarf Tribal, and really happy we're able to bring it back with this set and do some more of it. Also Treasure, of course. If you're going out on quests and fighting as Vikings, Treasure is important. So there's that. And then I love the Sacrifice 5 Treasures thing. It lets you build around it. It's pretty fun. You can play this in a treasure deck, and get out whatever big dragon you have. So super cool. Snow-covered Forest, and then welcome to Magic Arena. Choop. All right, wow, we are 40 minutes in, and we are at pack 6 or whatever. I got to pick up the pace, otherwise it's going to be longer than my Commander Legends one, and no one's going to watch the whole thing. He said, knowing that someone probably will. Anyway, we've seen a lot of the commons now, so we can probably start going through them. Strategic Panic, yes. Fearless Pup. Oh, what a delightful Magic card. Woo, indeed. I love this. This card makes me very happy. I don't know how much more to say about it other than I love that we make cards like this. Even in a harsh world full of fighting, there's still a cute little pup rolling around and saying a woo. So what a delightful Magic card this is. Just truly a wonder. Priest of the Haunted Edge. Yeah, kills off stuff for your snow permanents. Wanted to make sure that every color interacts with snow in a slightly different way. Killing stuff, of course, is right up Black's alley. So this is a 2-mana 0/4 that blocks early and then becomes a removal spell later on. Card you'll definitely want to pick up. Another Jaspira Sentinel. Behold the Multiverse. Here we are, a colorless vehicle. So of course, Vikings. You're going to have longboats. You're going to have all kinds of stuff people can get into. We knew pretty early on we wanted to do that. So this is a great example of that longboat, right? You're going to send out new boats to explore new places. It gets crewed, it attacks, and you get to go find a land when it attacks. Sometimes, if you find one. Depends on what's out there in the ocean. It's a Explorer Scope vehicle hybrid, and I think this captures the flavor really well in a very Viking feeling way. So, cool card. Revitalize again, another Squash. Grizzled Outrider makes a return appearance. Hailstorm Valkyrie, right? So Valkyries, of course, very Norse. Valkyrie is a super Norse term. And showing up in black, right? You haven't seen a lot of Valkyries in the past, but they're not all goody-goodies. And this is another one that really wants you to, once again, commit to that snow. Some archetypes want you to be snow heavier than others, and if you're green-black, for example, this would go well with that Icehide Troll because you're trying to get as much snow mana as you can. There's a fun little mini-game of how high you should pick your snow-covered lands, and cards like this really make you want to pick them. As you know, if you make it a 4-mana Flying Trampler that hits for 4, that is really, really powerful. So, nice card. Doomscar Titan. This is a great way to finish people off. You can, foretell it on turn 2. Maybe you don't even cast it till much later on the turn that you win, or just drop it on turn 5 to get in for a bunch of damage. This is one that I expect you will cast from your hand or foretell, about an equal amounts of each. Like if you can foretell on turn 2, great, just go ahead and do it. But this will be a card that you might draw later on and not have the mana, or you might not want to wait, right? If you have 6 mana available to you, you might just want to slam this thing down and attack right away. So it's great in that it kind of bridges the gap there. And then you'll have some interesting turns where it's like, okay, well, it's turn 4. I could play a 4-drop, or I could foretell this and then play it for its full value next turn. So interesting questions being asked here by the Doomscar Titan. But yeah, it's pretty nice. Giant's Amulet, another one of those colored equipments. And keep in mind that, so this is kind of a cool wrinkle on equipment. I should have talked about this with the other one too, but where it can kind of living weapon to come with a creature. So it's either a 1 mana normal equipment, or for 5 mana, it comes with its own creature attached to it, which is a pretty fun way to allow you to have creatures in your deck if you're playing tons of equipment, or extra creatures by virtue of this, so you're not playing the all equipment deck on accident, for example. But also to help you scale it to what you need to do. If you just need the effect right now, great, cast it for 1 mana. Or if you want the bonus creature, go for it. This one, I expect you will likely pay for the bonus on a lot of the time. It's not that strong on its own, but as a 5 mana 4/5 creature with hexproof all untapped, it becomes a little more saucy. Calamity Bearer. Speaking of giant tribal Lorwyn fans, bring out your old giants to build your giant deck. This is a nice one. It is a 4 mana creature that hits for 6 on its own, and then of course if you've got other giants roaming around, it can kill your opponent in no short order. So yeah, this card is pretty rad. Another red card, which is cool. We got that snow-covered island. Ooh, foil rare. Check out this vampire dragon right here. This is a card that I know generated a lot of discussion on the previews. Shivanbot really thought this was a neat design. No matter what happens when it becomes tapped, you're getting a bonus. And whether they feed it or you attack with it, you're going to do the thing. So I love that it has that continual exiling. People don't generally run enough exile effects in their decks in general. But it can also grow bigger every time it attacks, or if you feed it, it's still growing bigger. This is a card you're going to have to watch out for. And once again, the ability to sack it and become an indestructible is a big deal. So yeah, this one is really nice. Your opponent can't sack stuff, which is kind of a thing that you would expect out of this card, you know, like the Clatter Bridge Troll or whatever. But just you being able to like play it, sack a thing on your opponent's turn, tap it, get the bonus is really nice. If you can attack with it, you know, you can always sack it, or you can attack and then tap. So anyway, a lot of fun stuff to be done here. Happy to open it up. And then here's our checklist card. Okay, on to the next pack. We're starting to pick up the pace a little bit. Still a lot of packs left to get through, though. All right, Kaya booster. What do we got for Valor of the Worthy? Little 1/1 aura. Leaves a spirit token behind. You've seen a lot of variants like this before. Depart the Realm. You know, there's definitely a lot of cards that are like, hey, and whenever you're making a set, you're like, okay, here's a classic effect. Let's try out the new mechanic on it. Ta-da! And this is like, hey, let's do a bounce spell. Also put the new mechanic on it. And this is the kind of thing where a lot of times you don't have a good target for your bounce spell right now. So why not just foretell it, and then, you know, what later on, it only costs you one mana. Not a huge savings, but a little bit of a bonus. And for cards that care about you foretelling, it's nice. Immersturm Raider. You know, using this different kind of red Luden, give you a little bit of card filtering, which is great. Glad to have that around. I often find I play these cards a lot more than other people in Limited, just because I love being able to make sure I don't have mana trouble early on. The ability to pitch a land to find a non-land, or pitch non-land to find a land, or dig a little bit deeper into your deck is super nice. Plus, keep in mind the graveyard synergies, so that discarding a card on turn 2 can set you up for some good stuff on turn 3. Another one of these. Snakeskin Veil. Move over Ranger's Guile. There's a new trick in town. 1 mana for a counter. Sometimes playable. Battle Growth, you know, it's a combat trick. Hexproof is great because it protects your creature. So, you know, the combination of these two together makes for a pretty potent combat trick, because you can either really effectively use it in combat and not feel bad about blowing it there to kill off your opponent's creature so your thing doesn't trade. Or, of course, as an ability to counter their removal spell. They target your thing, you give a Hexproof in response. It fizzles is really nice. So, yeah, this is basically a straight upgrade, more or less, over Ranger's Guile, and I'll be playing this plenty. I think this card might even have constructed potential too. So I don't know. Is it poison playable? Probably not. I'll ask Tom Ross. Tom Ross will tell me. Wither Crown, giving creatures base power 0. There's something new for you in black. It's yeah, you're not feeling powerful when you're wearing the Wither Crown. And then you know, you can opt out of it, sack a creature away, no problem. But if you want to block or have some abilities, it's going to just needle away at you over time. It's kind of fun to be able to give your opponent that choice. And a lot of the time, you know, if it's a small creature, they'll be like, oh, well, whatever, I'll chump block with it. But if it's a bigger creature and it's like, well, I keep my O5 around now, but I'm going to take a damage every turn. I love these kind of things that create mini games and are really different depending on the creature you play them on and the stage of the game you're in. So this is a pretty cool new style of design. Dogged Pursuit. Draining opponent for 1 every turn. Very black. Makes a lot of sense to have it on enchantment. It's a really simple card. I would not be surprised to see us reprint this more times. It's not incredibly powerful or anything. Whatever that card from Ravnica Legions is. This is not Ill-Gotten something. Anyway, Ill-Gotten Inheritance. But still, you might play this sometimes, but on the whole, I think it's just a very reprintable card you'll likely see more of in the future. Frostbite. Once again, that's snow spells. So doing something new here with snow. This one is probably constructed playable, right? Shocks normally show up in places. Can't hit players, but upgrading to 3 damage is pretty nice. Run Ashore. Choose one or both. Using that nice little templating technology here. Fun fact, I was actually the one who suggested using bullet points for Magic all the way back in the day because Kaijudo was trying it. It's a different card game we made for a little while and no longer do. And it got brought into that. And I'm so glad we do bullet points now. It makes the cards so much easier to read. And yeah, this is, bounce 2 things for 6 mana. One of them goes back into their deck somewhere. This is the kind of card that you don't always play in Limited, but you do sometimes. If you're playing a really slow deck or you want a big, expensive curve topper for tempo. Just a little squirrel and moose. All the way back in Lorwyn, we had Ambassador Oak as a 3-mana 3/3 tree folk that made a 1/1 elf. This day he's lost the toughness here, but he's an elf himself, so we'll get all your elf bonuses. I'd say that's a pretty fair trade. The Glade Warden, another changeling. This card can be very strong because you get to just scale up over time. Oh, let's get the camera to refocus here. You can just scale up over time and make your creature bigger and bigger, which helps break board stalls, which is always something I'm looking for, especially in a sealed deck. Plus the tribal synergies. I would not be surprised to see this be a pretty reasonable pick in Limited. And if you're playing sealed, I would definitely consider playing this card. For example, if you're playing a pre-release, this will really help you break the game later on. Binding the Old Gods. First of all, fun fact about this, Victor Adame crushed it. This is actually a carving. He carved this himself. It's totally nuts. So, blows my mind. There's a photograph of a carving. Anyway, this card is rad. Another saga. I just can't get over the art every time I look at it. But yeah, 4 mana to blow up something, pretty good. 4 mana that kills their thing and gets you a land, pretty good. 4 mana that kills their thing, gets you a land, and eventually Death Touch them, awesome. So, this is basically a built-in 2-for-1, given that you're going to kill off their thing and get a forest out of it. And then the Death Touch at the end is just gravy. So if you're playing Limited and you're black-green, you will want this. I would expect this to show up even in some Commander decks potentially, and maybe even in Standard if you're in black-green. It's just a lot of good things. The ramp is a little bit slow. I mean, you're not playing it for the ramp effect, admittedly. Camera refocus here. Sorry about that camera not refocusing. You're not playing it for the ramp effect, admittedly, but it still does a lot of good work. Icebind Pillar, Snowy Manipulator, Icy Air Manipulator, whatever you want to call it. These kind of cards have had a long history of being playable sometimes in Constructed, but in Limited they are powerhouses. And as long as you have access to a snow mana, yeah, this is going to be a hot card for you. Let's get it to refocus here. Let's hold it right about here. Sorry about the camera refocusing. There we go. All right. And for a rare, we've got the Dream Devourer. Lets you foretell anything. So that's pretty nice. And then it gets big when you foretell stuff. A lot of fun stuff to foretell here. Reduces those mana costs by 2. So great way to help ramp out, big stuff early on in the game. I can think of a number of cards I would be happy if they cost 2 less. A lot of the 9 mana cards from Commander Legends, that sorcery cycle, great to foretell here. And just, of course, tons of big creatures. So pretty fun. I imagine plenty of games where I drop this thing and then just shove my hand off to the side. And I'm like, all right, next turn there's going to be some trouble for you. Snow-covered plains, and then a Dwarf Berserker. Little 2/1 Dwarf Berserker. Commander, cube, in every format in between. Okay, we are at over 50 minutes. All right, here we go. Scorn Effigy. Seen that one already. Let's go by. Bind the Monster, seen you. Roots of Wisdom, still cool, but seen you. Sternum Cursor, seen you. I'm going to skip past all these ones we've seen. Guardian Gladewalker. The 2-mana 1/1 that puts a counter on something has shown up in a lot of our sets recently. And once again, it's like, hey, this is great for the set, and we'll put the set mechanic on it. Boom, done. So I guess move over whatever the beetle is. I don't remember the name of that guy. Or there's the elf version too. You stop remembering names of cards after a while when you start making so many of them, especially the newer cards. Those are really hard to remember. But anyway, yeah, this is a great new wrinkle on an old limited staple. Arachnoform makes it every creature type, not just a spider, by the way, despite what the name may sound like. So watch out. This is a way to turn on some of your tribal synergies. Auras often aren't that strong in limited, but there's a bit of aura synergies in some places, but mostly the +2/+2 and every creature type can really make sure you can power on some cards. So, also one tip for limited, if your deck is not good, if you think your deck is on the weaker end, I often recommend playing auras just because they'll steal you wins, right? If you think, well, my deck can't really win in a fair fight, then you have to find a way to make the fight unfair. And sometimes your opponent just won't have a removal spell. You'll play out a creature and some arachnoforms on it. You'll have a 5/5 really early in the game, and that'll be enough to kill off your opponent. So, little limited tip for you there. Run ashore, seen you. Vault Robber. This is a fun one. A great way to make treasure tokens while being a dwarf too. So it's a bit of red ramp. This card is pretty nice. Dwarf Rogue. Colossal Plow. This card makes me so funny, or makes me so happy. It's a little bit funny with the Ox that costs 1 white mana, of course. That's a really fun combination. Because you can use this to cast the Ox. So there's some flavor there, and then the Ox can crew this because it can crew with its toughness. So this card makes me smile. It's a great flavor one for the set. And of course, agriculture. The Vikings were good at agriculture. They did stuff. Boreal Outrider. This is, if you're playing snow, this is a super strong card to have. In limited, you're going to want this if you have any amount of snow in your deck, basically. It just makes more or less all your stuff enter with +1/+1 counters, which is, of course, huge. So, very strong card here. Would not be surprised to see this show up in some commander decks, too, provided you can get the snow rolling for it. Oops. Frost Augur. Remember Scrying Sheets? I use Scrying Sheets on a creature. Really good if you have a lot of snow in your deck. Like, the ability to tap, draw a card on a 1-mana creature is huge. I would not be surprised to see constructed play, personally. So, yeah, this is a powerhouse card. Whoa! Well, first of all, we've hit another showcase frame. I'm getting them in spades, which is fantastic. Super happy about that. But we've also hit our first modal double-faced card. These are very interesting. So the gods are modal double-faced cards. They are the god on one side, super cool. And then on the other side, they are something that is not the god, basically. So in this case, an enchantment. But, sometimes they're a creature, for example, like the Raven from Alrund, but there's something else that relates to that god, a weapon, like the one that the red god has. Torolf, I think is his name. And this is a wonky one, though, because this is a mono green card on the front, hooray, but a 5-mana card on the back, which does, by the way, mean for Commander that it is all 5 colors for its color identity. Yeah. Well, I'm just happy to open this. This box is going pretty well so far. A Showcase Mythic Rare that I can build a 5-color Commander deck around is a lot of fun. This card is sweet too, by the way. I mean, it's just 3 mana, 1/4 Vigilance, gives all your legendaries tapping for mana, taps for mana on itself, a fine commander to jam, and then of course this Prismatic Bridge is no joke. Gives you a permanent every single turn. So that is great. Super happy about that open. Glacial Floodplain, another one of these snowlands. Port of Carfell, hey, it's you again, but in foil this time. Put that over in the keeper stack. Foretell card. This is, by the way, just like how we had adventures in adventure cards in Eldraine. Here we have this Foretell card that you can put cards on top of to remind you that they're foretold. So just a little helper card. You don't have to use it, but just helps you remember, what's where, what's foretold, what's not just exiled from your graveyard or something like that. Very cool. Wow, this is great. Anyway, lots of cards to see. Gotta keep going. Okay, at almost an hour. Lots of the box to go through. It's gonna take a long time to upload. That's my big takeaway so far. But I am happy with my box, so that's a fine trade-off. Fearless Pup, seen you. Story Seeker. You know what's good about stories? They give you life. Don't think about it too hard. Here we go. Undersea Invader. ETB tapped on a flash creature is pretty funny. This is sort of like a weird blue haste creature in a sense, right? Because you flash it on your opponent's turn. At the end of their turn, you untap and then you attack with it. So this is a way for the Giants to get their aggressive on, even though they're blue. 6 mana, 5/6, pseudo secret kind of haste. Keep an eye out for that one. Craven Hulk. Okay, so lots of questions online about where is the Giant. Now keep in mind, this is a Giant Coward. Cowards can't block warriors. Very important fact. This is a Giant Coward. Where is the Craven Hulk? It looks like a mountain. There's like a goat. Looks like a mountain. There's like a goat right here, right? This back here is the Craven Hulk. This little different colored mountain. You see it in the eyes. There's his eyes right there. He's kind of hanging out about there. There's his little hand. So that's where the Craven Hulk is. When you look at this card, now you can tell your friends. You can spot the Craven Hulk. Good work. Can't block alone. My 4 mana 4/4s don't need to block a lot of the time, though. So this one's going to get in there just fine. Don't let his looks fool you. He will attack your opponent just fine. He's not Ember Beast. Now this is a nice one. 3 mana 3/2. Great. Play that stat line sometimes anyway. But the ability that when you attack with it, you can pay 2 mana to go find a land helps your 5-color. I guess 5 is ambitious. I'm just still kind of on a high from opening up this. But it helps your multicolor decks turn out great. You'll be able to lay the land and find what you need. And it's just a card advantage engine. So I'm always happy to have stuff that lets me hit my land drops and, pseudo draws me cards on a creature. If you can get this to connect, or just, even if it trades off in combat, you can still activate it. It's pretty nice. You'll note there's a lot of off-curve stuff to do in this set between Boast and Foretell. You have a lot of reasons to spend 2 mana or 3 mana randomly in the middle of your turn. So a lot of lands can be pretty good in the limited format. Because you're always going to have stuff to do with your mana, right? You're going to want to foretell a card and boast, and you're going to not want to miss your land drops. So you should consider playing 18 lands in your limited deck, but also that makes this effect extra potent because you want those lands. Koma's Faithful. 3 mana 3/1. When it dies, everyone mills 3. And of course, if you are say black-green and you've got graveyard stuff going on, makes it all the better. So 3 mana 3/1 lifelink dies into a bonus. Not a card you're going to play if you're not the mill deck, but if you're the mill deck, you're happy to do it. Just keep in mind it mills your opponents too, so you might turn on their stuff. Here it is, the Giant Ox that goes with the plow. Crewing vehicles with its toughness rather than its power. Card just makes me smile. It's just a funny line of text. And it does feel like an ox, right? This is a very flavorful card. I don't know when this card was designed. I could look it up, but my guess is this is probably a card that someone came up with pretty early on and stuck all the way through. I could be wrong, but it's a very charming, early design card someone would make when they're making a top-down ox. Sculptor of Winter, 2 mana elves, always great. All it takes is 1 snow land to make this a 2 mana 2/2 mana elf, which is excellent. And especially with all those snow activations, you're going to want this around to be able to get that double snow you need for some of those green-black cards, for example. So, solid card. Feed the Serpent. The Serpent is so hungry. Yum, yum, yum. Exiling creature planeswalker for 4 mana. Pretty good. We saw Vraska's Contempt, which was a rare. See a lot of constructed play, and the only bonus on that was it gave you 2 life. Yes, this is worse than Vraska's Contempt. I would not be surprised if this saw some play. Maybe in Standard, I could see it there, but especially in Limited, you're going to want to pick this up highly. It's a pretty saucy card. Vault Robber again. Hello. All right. Hour mark. Time to drink some water. Immersturm Skullcairn. This is the red-black version of these lands. Once again, it has the threat of discarding a card on there. 3 damage, great way to finish off the game in your aggressive red-black deck. One thing I'm going to call out that I think is an interesting design note is this bit down here about activate only as a sorcery. Usually with anything that can be used at instant speed normally, but is a discard effect, we put this activate as a sorcery line on there. The reason for that is because we don't want you activating it in your draw step. There's a few cards that allow you to do that, like Funeral Charm. This means you could let your opponent draw their card if they only have 1 card, or if they have 0 cards, you could draw their 1 card, and you can make them discard it, kind of time-walking them, in a sense. So we generally put a sorcery speed activation on anything that allows your opponents to discard cards at instant speed. Fun little factoid for you. Rune of Speed. So there are runes in this set. I know that's been much discussed. They are auras. They do have a subtype. There's a couple cards that care about them. And the cool thing about them is you can, of course, enchant your creatures, or you can enchant your equipment to give a bonus, which is really flavorful for runes. These are not constructed powerhouses. I don't expect there to be like a strong rune deck kicking down the door, but they're mostly just there for awesome flavor. I think they do a good job of like conveying a rune, right? You can put it on a creature or on an equipment. And if I remember right, this kind of thing was in the set pretty early on. I could be wrong, but I remember hearing about runes for a very long time. The Trickster God's Heist. Yes, good old Loki-style characters making some mischief here. I love it when the first thing you read on a saga is exchanging control of two creatures, because I love switcheroo-style stuff. And the fact that this is like, switcheroo, other kinds of switcheroo, and then drain is like, the drain, whatever. Just give me all the switcheroos in the world, which allows me to give my opponents all kinds of bad cards and take exactly what I need for the situation. One thing that you'll note here that I think is interesting is the note of exchange control of two target non-basic non-creature permanents. This can take your opponent's lands. And there are a lot of times your opponent will have a land that you might be worried about that you want to nab. The dual lands, for example, will do it here. But, if you're playing this card in, I don't know, say Commander, taking two ability-producing lands or, awesome, like a Maze of Ith or whatever can be really strong. So I'm not saying this is going to be a Commander staple or anything, but definitely has a lot of applications. And in Limited, I'm happy to just switcheroo and then maybe, swap around some auras or something like that. One fun thing you can do that I always love doing is giving your opponent control of one of your auras. It's on one of your creatures because they control it, but your creature still gets the bonus from it. So that's a pretty fun one. It works good with the Rune of Speed, for example. Elvish Warmaster, just on the red-green rare train today. This is one of the elf travel cards mentioned a few times. I think this is the first elf travel card we've seen, and this is a doozy. This is a very strong one that will be spearheading elf decks for sure. And I would not be surprised to see this show up even in some Eternal formats. It does trigger only once per turn, so you can't like elf ball out with it. But still, a 2-mana 2/2 that gives you an elf every time you make an elf is really nice. One thing that is interesting, you'll see here in Kaldheim, I believe this is the first place this appears, is this line. This ability triggers only once each turn. I don't think we've used that before, and that's a new templating thing. So all you wannabe editors out there, pay attention. Then that Azuri overrun at the end is a nice little bonus. We've got the Alpine Meadow right here, and then another Dwarf Berserker, rounding it out. All right, on to the next pack. We're through like 7 packs or something. 8 packs. We've got a long way to go. If you're still here with us, thank you for sticking around for so long. Type your favorite location with snow into the comments. I loved knowing last time I did this with pineapple, and it worked out really interestingly, seeing like who actually made it this far in the video. So if you made it this far, just to the hour-ish mark, type something about your favorite snowy location down below. Maybe it's the Himalayas. Maybe it's just your location in wintertime. Maybe it's Alaska. I don't know. Just let me know about your favorite snowy location. We'll have a little secret code here. See if other folks can figure it out. I also like this one because you gotta like, if you didn't watch this far and everyone's like posting different snowy locations, you're like, what am I supposed to post? Anyway, enough about that. More cards to look at. Beskir Shieldmate dies into a 2/1. Once again, dies triggers, plenty of those rolling around here. And you can attack. It's great. We wanted to make sure that you could play Foretell. Decks with a lot of Foretell stuff going on in them. And making a blue mana creature is not something you see often, right? You get deranged assistant style cards. But you see it every now and then for specific things, like the Vidalian Arcanist, I think, is the one that taps for mana for instants and sorceries. So allowing you to cast instants or sorceries or Foretell is not that much of a stretch here. It's just a little bonus on the Vidalian Arcanist that you already know. Axgard Cavalry. First of all, I love the art on this one. It's a very different looking Magic card, and we're really trying to use a variety of different art styles in our sets. And this feels a little different than a normal art you might see, which I dig. It's a good work, Evan Fong. 2-mana 2/2 that gives something haste though scales great into the late game. Make sure that you curve out, right. Your 3-mana card is gonna connect. So that's great. Also, a note to this flavor text: a long time ago in Urza Saga, I think around this era, maybe even earlier. Trying to get my time periods right, like Mirage too. There were a lot of flavor texts that were like thing, an expression meaning the thing, and it's cool to see that construction brought back here in Kaldheim, right? You can go look at some of those sets for some very famous versions of this, but I find this charming. Dustcowl Worm maybe has one, if I'm remembering correctly. I would have to, or if I'm remembering right, yeah. I don't. Yeah, if you go look it up, you'll find it. Just look up like Elvish Expression. There's tons of them. Another one of these guys, Mammoth Growth, great card name by the way, and even better than the card name I think is that flavor text. Thus the long haul became a flat haul. Solid foretell combat trick. Once again, by foretelling, your opportunity cost is very small because as long as you're not going to cast it this turn, you can just play it for 1 mana later on. Elderfang Disciple, little Ravenous Rat action. It's also an elf, so pay attention to that. Ravenous Rats that goes into an elf deck. Plenty playable. Also hits each opponent, so you multiplayer fans, take note. Another Sculptor of Winter, another Feed the Serpent, Vault Robber, Great Hall of Starnheim. This is the white-black one. A little tricky part in this card. Gotta pay attention. Reading comprehension test. Because it looks very strong, and it is still pretty good, but keep in mind that it does make you sacrifice a creature you control. I noticed a lot of people missing this in the previews. It's a little bit different than the other ones. And that it requires an additional sacrifice on top of just the land. So that's hidden in there. Pay attention to it. Don't get caught trying to activate this when you don't have another creature to sacrifice. But making a 4/4 Flying Vigilance out of whatever token you have lying around is pretty nice. So happy to roll with that one. Carter's Vicious Return. Another gorgeous saga. Love all the different ways that you see sagas and the art on them take frame here. We usually try and make them like in-world representations of the story, so whether wooden carvings or tapestries or what have you, and yeah, just really cool looking card. Don't mess with Carter. That's the moral of the story of this card. Dwarven Hammer. Yes, this is the red version of this equipment cycle. Very nice. Creature gets bigger, smashes things. You pay the kicker, quote unquote, as it were. And you end up with a 5/1 trample that you can smash with and then re-equip. So a little less sturdy than the blue one. Hey, it's Quakebringer. That's a nice one. Your opponents can't gain life. I think every upkeep deals 2 to each opponent. That triggers from your graveyard. This is a card that I know had a lot of discussion during previews. I expect this to be probably a constructed player, all things considered. Triggering from your graveyard, if you have a giant in play, is huge, right? It gives your red deck an amazing amount of extra reach in the end game. Whew, that's a nice rare. Snow-covered plains. Whoa! Foil Mythic Rare. No complaints from this box. This is going great. Eradicator Valkyrie. Something about seeing that foil mythic will always make me smile. And this is a quite playable one. This is a stat monster. 4 mana, 4/3, flying, lifelink. Hexproof from Planeswalkers, which can be surprisingly relevant. It's a little late for Oko, but still pretty good. And then the boast of being able to, basically innocent blood. You sack a creature, they sack something. Really strong. This is a card I expect to show up in Constructed. Super happy to get a foil mythic version of it. That feels great. And some really kicking art there too. Great work, Tyler Jacobson. Whew. Nice. All right. Still a lot of the box left to go. Kicking on in here. Hope you found your snowy location well for the last comment. Run amok, 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 amok. I think this is a reprint. Good little red combat trick. Wings of the Cosmos. This power creeps over a card, a very old card that I do not remember the name of. They used to give +1/+2. There it is. White power creep. Just magic power creep. It's happening. It's real. I'm going to get so many comments about that, despite the fact that it was a joke. Anyway, goodbye, Brian Barrow Intruder. Goodbye, Firewalker. Goodbye, Withercrown, even though you're a wild common. King Harold's Revenge! Yes, King Harold of the Elves will indeed have their revenge, and they will do it by pumping up your creatures. Might of the Masses is always a nice combat trick to have around, and makes a lot of sense in a go-wide deck like Elves. This can make a very small creature a very huge problem. Note that it is a sorcery, so it's not a combat trick in the truest sense. I guess you need some kind of like combat trick alignment chart. Maybe I should make one as to what a combat trick is. But anyway... maybe I'll make one. That sounds like fun. I don't think anyone's done that one yet. Anyway, the ability to make it have to be blocked too can kill off your opponent's creature in a pinch. So, yeah. This is a fine card that you will not always play, but if you were going wide like you would in an elf deck, I would play this in limited. Absolutely. Another Dogged Pursuit, another Frostbite, another Run Ashore. Crush the Weak. What a name. And then with that fist coming down here. Board Sweepers. Generally good in limited. Board Sweepers that you can cast for 1 mana later on, even better. Once again, this is a card that you could foretell on turn 2. You might not need for a very long time, but when you do, you're going to be really happy that you have that extra mana, so you can recast creatures after the board sweeper happens. Additionally, that exile, no joke. Lots of graveyard stuff happening here. You want to get creatures out of their opponent's graveyard. Gates of Istival, aka Muldrifter, Cloud Drifter land. Super great. Yeah, I basically would always play this if I'm blue-white. I'd always play all these lands if I'm in these colors, of course. But if I'm blue, I would consider, like, if I'm touching white already, this is a card I would basically always play there, too. Just, I don't know, draw 2 cards, gain 2 life. I don't know why I'm talking about this card for so long. I just love Cloudblazer and Muldrifter, so seeing this makes me very happy. That's all I got. Weathered Runestone. I believe this was Talia Vest's preview card. Great work on that one, Talia. Weathered Runestone is a hate card. You can imagine a number of the things that it's probably hating on. Grafdigger's Cage, style effect. I guess instead of talking about the things that it hates on, which you can deduce on your own, the thing that I'll note is we started doing a thing where some of these hate cards show up at uncommon now. These used to always be rares because they don't do anything in limited and whatever, but a lot of times they're pretty disappointing rares. So in Dominaria, Dave Humphreys, who also led this set, put in Damping Sphere. Is that the one? Whatever the 2-mana sphere is, into that set. And that went over really well. So they're not always going to be uncommon. There'll be hate cards at rare for sure. But this one made a lot of sense at uncommon here. It hates on escape and, you know, all kinds of stuff. So once again, a little late for Uro, but still, this will have plenty of utility and show up, I think, in Eternal formats probably too. Rise of the Dreadmarn. Make some zombie berserkers. Foretell it. Sounds great to me. Once again, that foretell going down to 1 mana. You might want to leave 1 mana up and do this later on. So also a good way in Commander to get your army back after a board sweeper. Snow-Covered Mountain. Death Nail Berserker. I love this if its power is 3 or greater line. This is a trick we run sometimes, make you want to enchant it or want to pump it up with auras or +1/+1 counter style stuff. So really, really happy to see that every now and then. By the way, I'm sure some people will ask about the foils. So here's this foil right here. Here's what it looks like from the side. Pretty flat fresh out of the pack. So there you go. Treasure right here. This goes here. Here is another pack. Let's do it. Tybalt's on the front of this one. Let's see how tricky we get. God's Hall Guardian, skip. Undersea Invader, skip. Seize the Spoils, yet another common we have not seen. Let's seize the opportunity, to talk about it. This is we started doing this effect all the way back, I think it was Wild Guess the first time. Anyway, we've evolved it a lot. And now we often give you bonuses for doing it. And making a treasure token is just the newest in the line of bonuses. There's also, I think, a previous one, Raider Spoils, maybe, that give you 2 treasure tokens. This one is 1 mana cheaper than that, so that's what's going on here. Elderfang Disciple, skipping these. Seeing all these, moving on. The Mirror Lake. This card is a delight, right? So it is a land that is a clone. It's not a word that I thought I would say, although I guess we just did get the modal double-faced card land, clone, and Zendikar, so maybe I should be more used to saying them than I am. But a true land that you play and late game turns into a clone of your best creature is really powerful. And of course, copying some of the ETB effect is excellent too. So this is a card that I would expect to show up in Commander decks. 5 mana tap sack. It's a hefty cost, but copying your Craterhoof Behemoth or whatever, I mean, it's going to be amazing. And this might even show up in Standard too, honestly. Like these lands are all Standard playable in those colors. Because of the effects they have late, for the most part. Replicating Ring appears again. Blitzguy Berserker appears again. Realm Walker, this is a fun one. As it enters the battlefield, choose a creature type, and then you can cast it from the top of your library, sort of like Vizier, that Vizier from Amonkhet style thing. If you, of course, pick the right type. But it's cool that it is changeling, so it goes into every tribal deck. You know, I saw a lot of success in C17 making the Kindred cards, which you could name any tribe for, and you got to kind of build your own tribal deck. And so this being a changeling allows this to slot into any green tribal deck you want, so it's not locked into being an elf or something, while still caring about a specific tribe. So yeah, cool card. Snow-Covered Swamp, Draugr Thought Thief again, and then this Dwarf Berserker. Boop. You don't go in there, you go over here. All right, on to the Tyvar Kell row of booster packs. It's interesting that they all have the same picture all the way across. Battlefield Raptor, 1 mana, totally powered. Sorry, Suntale Hawk, your day is over. Battlefield Raptor is here. 1 mana, 1/2, or flying, first strike. It's probably not quite as good as the Healer's Hawk, which was, I know, huge in Guilds of Ravnica. But still, this is a great card to equip up. Also, that art. I mean, that is a Raptor doing some business right there. That is a mean Raptor. Draw your own conclusions. Berg Strider, you know, like an iceberg, perhaps. This is a card that you'll want to use snow mana to cast. 5 mana, 4/4 you might play normally, but once again, really reinforcing that snow theme. Seize the Spoils, Seen You, Mammoth Growth, Seen You, Priest of the Haunted Edge, oh my gosh. Bind the Monster, Roots of Wisdom, Starheim Cursor, Smashing Success, Infernal Pet. Okay, so I guess it's white-black, this is the second spell deck. Perfect. And yeah, this is a good one to cast your second spell with, giving it ++1 and flying. These kind of sometimes flying cards are always a nightmare for creative to concept and artwork, because what is a creature that is flying sometimes? Is it a wizard? Okay, maybe we get a couple of those. They did a great job here with this cute little baby imp. I think they did a great job there. But for all you amateur designers out there, just know that if you have something gain sometimes flying, the creative team will look a little scant in your direction. They'll figure it out. It won't get angry at you, but always provides a little trick. Blizzard Brawl. Yes, in Tarkir you saw some bears fighting. Here, this is a little bit of a meaner battle than what the teamer had to go through. Snow sorcery, though, it's pretty sweet. And it gives, of course, you have 3 snow permanents, it gives it indestructible, which is why it's snow sorcery. All the snow sorcerers, I believe, care about snow, so once again, it's no problem. It's got a bear. Narfi, the Betrayer King, Narf-E. The fact that it can come back from your graveyard is great. I always love that kind of stuff. So it's a zombie that comes back from your graveyard, pumps up all your zombies and all your snow things. So this is a card that could make for a good commander. Keep in mind that even though this ability doesn't work out of the command zone, once it dies, you might never have to pay its command tax again. So this makes a pretty hot zombie commander. Is it Grimgrin or Gisen Grolf? Probably not, but it at least goes in the 99, I think, of that deck. And maybe has its own fun synergies to play with. With the Sack Outlet, it's great, because for 3 mana, you can just keep bringing it back and sacking it again, too. So keep that in mind, zombie lovers. And for uncommon, no complaints. Fall of the Imposter. Kill off that little imposter god there. Nice, another little saga. Love seeing these sagas show up. We've got Maskwood Nexus. This card, I'm so happy about this card. It's great for the tribal deck. I know Tomer out there from Commander Clash is very happy about this. A lot of folks are happy about this. I have played a commander deck that is tribal in the past. Tribal, by the way, is where you play a bunch of cards that pump up creature types of whatever creature types. You might have like Lord of Atlantis and Goblin War Chief and, you know, whatever. You pick whatever creature types. And you play a bunch of changelings along with them, which is really fun. I think Tomer might use Morpheon. I use Your Dragon to make them all cost 1 less, which is pretty huge. But anyway, yeah, that deck is sweet, and this goes right in there. Maybe even allows for some wild standard shenanigans. Plus, it's just, you know, endless creatures. So this card's sweet. Then we got our Snow-Covered Forest rounding out the pack. All right, Ty Varkel, what does this booster have as we approach the hour 20 mark here? Another Carfell Harbinger, another Tormentor's Helm, Axguard Braggart, another boast creature. One fun thing I'll know about the boast creatures, they all are boasting in their flavor text. That was something that we tried to get in there. So you can all see exactly how they're boasting. Whether or not it's true, I'll leave that to the reader. This guy's a braggart, so who knows. Broken Wings. This is also, speaking of cards can be hard to concept, the Destroy Artifact, Enchantment, or Flyer is always a fun one to have creative trying to figure out, but they did a pretty good job here, I'd say. And these kind of plummet effects plus, you know, one thing that we've noticed, especially with the rise of Arena, is you often are playing best of one and don't have sideboards. So stapling a lot of these situational things together is just a way to help make sure that when you play it, you can hit a wide variety of things. And especially with flyers and plenty of decks, and then artifacts and enchantments running around all over the place with you know, not as much as like a Kaladesh, but still plenty with vehicles and equipment and runes and all that. A card like this could be pretty main deckable sometimes, and helps get it into decks and best of one on Arena. So that's a little thing where you'll see us do more of in sets. The Grim Draugr is here. Great if you're drafting snow. Drafting snow lands is such an interesting wrinkle, and I'm excited to see, if you've never done it before, how that plays out for you. I guess we did just do it in Modern Horizons, but I did it first back in Cold Snap, which was a long time ago for me. Dwarven Reinforcements. I remember I was playing this card in Limited. I thought this card was pretty funny, in that it really makes you try and figure out what the right thing to do is. In that, in your aggressive deck, you really want to play. If you're playing this, you're probably a red aggressive deck. You really want to play a creature on turn 2. But man, being able to play this off curve later on turn 4, playing like a 2-drop and foretelling this or whatever, it can be really powerful. So once again, it asks you some interesting questions. Annul, hello, Skirt of Skemfar, Funeral Longbow, the Lindworm, Ascent of the Worthy, another amazing art piece by James Arnold. I will note, James Arnold, he did the art, he's done a couple things. I'll note he did the art for the Mirari Conjecture, but I've also said his name already today. And the reason why is James Arnold is our in-house frame designer. Him and Daniel Holt design a lot of the frame elements, and James Arnold designed, for example, the showcase frames here, as well as most of the other frames you've seen in the past several years. So really, if you enjoy anything like the adventure frame or the Theros lands, that's all James Arnold. Going over to his desk is just a delight. You walk over and there's, I haven't been able to go there for months, unfortunately, now, but just everywhere are concepts for upcoming frames. So the dude is amazing, truly, truly talented. And every now and then, because he's not talented enough, he also just knocks out an art piece to put on a card like this. So amazing work, James, and another cool saga. Skemfar, Shadow Sage. You get to choose some stuff with this. Little elfy boy. Cares about your creature type, so great for your elf deck, but also if you're not playing elves, you can choose some different things with it, and it'll be okay. Dual Strike. I love copying things like Rosewater. Rosewater loves tokens more than I do, I think. Rosewater loves doubling things, but we both share a love of copying things. And putting it on copy cards at uncommon, I think is pretty fun. Traditionally we saw Reverberates and Twin Cast at rare, but at uncommon it lets you do some pretty wild stuff. And this is one where you will, especially that mana discount can make a big difference. But teeing yourself up to double up on a removal spell or, just make something really sweet happen is very cool. So huge fan of this kind of stuff showing up uncommon. I'd like for us to do it more. Hey, it's Jorn. So we have another modal double face card. This one is 3 colors. We've got, instead of the 5 colors we saw before, we've got Jorn on the front, who of course is great in the snow deck, untapping all your snow permanents. And then bam, Kaldheim the Rime Staff. And this is once again in its showcase version, which is super great and lovely to see. Yeah, this is the card to helm your snow deck right here. So I dig it. Good work, Jorn. Snowcover Forest, and this goes over here. We've opened up so many showcase cards. Have all of our legendary cards been showcased so far? Probably not. I'll probably find one there that isn't. But anyway, it's great to open up this many showcase cards. Got a red-green deck ready to go here. Okay, smashing success again. Infernal Pet, Mistwalker, goodbye. Elderfang Disciple, Mammoth Growth, Stalwart Valkyrie, another Mistwalker. That's interesting. Another Infernal Pet. Shimmerdrift Veil, Duskwielder, I've seen you. Invasion of the Giants. This one's for your giant decks out there. Very good, very good. It's nice and limited where you can have a card that's fine to play at its base, and it can help you do what's happening on your theme without committing you super heavily to it. So, 2 mana to scry 2 and then draw a card is already a card you might play sometimes. If you just slam this turn 2, life can be totally fine. But really, of course, where the hotness comes here is when you can take full advantage of that third effect and tee yourself up for it. So if your deck has a lot of giants in it, play this turn 2, and then on turn 5, or turn 4, excuse me, you can play a 6-drop giant, like the one that gives all your stuff haste and plus and plus. So yeah, that's pretty sweet. Once again, a cool in-world representation of the art as well. Rune of Speed again, hello. Frostfire Arcanist, hello. Rally the Ranks. Speaking of modal choosing creature type stuff like the Kindred Cycle, here's this. Very early on, and throughout some of Vision Design, there was a mechanic that had you choose creature types, and there were a lot of them. Only some of the things from that exploration remain. This is one such card. And this is, Tribal Pump that you will play in a lot of tribal focus decks. Shivam and your soldiers deck. I'm looking at you, but you know, all kinds of stuff out there. Snow-covered forest and dragon goes over here. What's on the back of the dragon token? There's more to every story. Learn more at mtgstory.com. All right, nearing the hour-and-a-half mark. We are at least halfway through this box, but it should go a lot faster now that a lot of the commons are underway. Goodbye, Battlefield Raptor and Bergstrider and Craven Hulk. Village Rites. 1 mana, draw 2, sack a creature. I think we've seen this before somewhere. This is often good when you have tokens around a sacrifice. So that's the synergy you're looking for here, or stuff with dice triggers. So keep that in mind. Masked Vandal. Once again, getting cards into main decks that can destroy artifacts or enchantments, especially in a world with lots of best of one on Arena, is a nice little bonus. And this card is pretty playable in a lot of ways. Like 2 mana, naturalized plus 1/3 changeling. This is an elf, right? You can go into your elf deck. Lots of cool stuff happening. So bind the monster. Skip past these. Hello, Moriti of the Frost. Oh, this is great. The preview video for this was great, by the way, if you haven't seen it. Go check it out. But anyway, 5 mana, uncommon, changeling clone. So it keeps all the creature types whatever it clones, so it works in whatever deck that you're trying to make work, even if it's a shapeshifter deck. And of course, it's bigger and better. It comes in with 2+1 counters. So yeah, I know this card drew a lot of eyebrows and of excitement when it was previewed, which I feel like I've been saying a lot, which is a testament to how cool the set is, I suppose. And of course, showing up in that new frame is rad. Note the artist, by the way, Poison Project. That is a sweet thing to have in the artist line. Good old metal. Another great Hall of Starnheim. Dwarven Hammer. Bergie, hello. Yes, this is the boast. You want this if you're boasting. You can boast twice. That's pretty good. I don't really know what to say. Other than this card is very strong, and I expect to see a lot of it. You know, it's a 3 mana 3/3 that gives you mana, like some people could compare it to the Steamkin from Guilds of Ravnica. Plus lets you boast twice. And then on the back side, it's Experimental Frenzy. That doesn't lock you out of playing spells from your hand. So yeah, I would say this is very playable. Watch out for it. And Snow-Covered Plains. And then the game doesn't stop here. Okay, on to the next pack. We've got Valor of the Worthy, Depart the Realm, Immerstrom Raider. Let's keep flipping through these until we find something new here. I've seen so many of the comments by this point that, yeah, I don't think we can see too much there. Although I'm sure there's still a few. Bloodline Pretender, another, once again, cool choose a creature type card that gets bigger and better over time. Pick your creature type, giants, elves, whatever you want. Go nuts with this guy. A lot of fun. I personally love with cards like this making weirdo creature types work. Like you'll draft and look down and realize you have like 10 clerics or something that you wouldn't expect. So keep an eye out. You never know what you can do with this. Valkyrie's Sword. This is the white one in that cycle. It is expensive, but for 7 mana, you can make a 6/5 Flying Vigilance. So it's a great game closer. Or, you know, just pay 2 mana for +2/+1 equipment. Not too shabby. Rune of Might. Here is the green rune, which you can give to your equipment or your creatures. Just love how flavorful these are. Makes me happy. Faceless Haven. Ooh, this is nice. Yeah, this is in any kind of snow deck. I expect this to show up. This is super strong as a land that turns into a 4/3 creature. You know, the creature lands like Mutavault, Blinkmoth Nexus, etc. have a long history of being strong. Crawling Barrens, or whatever the one currently is in Standard, that you can put 2+1 counters on, is seeing a lot of play already. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this saw a decent amount of play as well. Snowland, Sulphurous Mire, and the Troll Warrior. All right, Tyvar Cal Booster, what do you have in store for us here? It says, more strategic planning, a fearless pup. Skipping ahead, seeing all these. Inga Runeyes, quoted in a number of pieces of flavor text, by the way, so hello, Inga Runeyes. This is an interesting one that you want to play in kind of like blue-black sacrifice deck. You know, we saw Kel's Fight Fixer play in this space in Jumpstart last year. But you know, if you can sack it perhaps along with 2 other creatures, well, you get to draw 3 cards. So this is a card you might actually cast from your command zone again and again and again. Scry 3, not too shabby either, but the real payoff here is finding ways to turn it into 3 cards. More of a limited legend than a baseline commander build around legend. But it's important that not every one of these legends is for commander. We're making so many legends now that they don't all have to be for commander. And that's a request that a lot of players are giving me too. So some do, like I said earlier, we added text onto the black-red legend, but here, it doesn't have to be. You can still play it though. There'll be some stuff going on. Here's a Rune Matters card, the Runed Crown. This one makes me smile. You get to tutor for a rune and put it onto the Runed Crown, which makes a lot of sense. So it kind of builds your own equipment, which is, I think it's just a great design, a way to pay off the runes. Once again, for limited. I'm not expecting it to be a constructed powerhouse. I'd be very surprised. But it's a good, flavorful nod, and sometimes getting those nods in is in any way you can is really important. Speaking of runes, hey, it comes right together. It's like a partner with pair right there. The Rune of Mortality, giving things Death Touch. Yeah, I'll take the +1/+1 Death Touch equipment. That sounds fine by me. And they all cantrip too, so keep in mind, this is a base cantrip on its own. Good stuff. King Narfi's Betrayal. Oh no, King Narfi. What are you up to this time? A nice rare saga here that allows you to play stuff. This is play your opponent's stuff, I should say, which is the important part here. What you get a bit of that built-in graveyard exiling, which once again we tried to put a lot of in the set. That can be pretty important. But on its base, this can very easily draw you 2 cards in a way that you can cast with Narfi's Betrayal later on. But in Commander, keep in mind that each graveyard, so this in a one-on-one game will draw you, I guess, 4 cards, because 2 from your opponent, 2 from you. But in a Commander game, wow, you get to exile a lot of cards you can play. So this one can be quite strong. I'm always thinking about things from both Standard and Commander's perspective, So, all right, on to how many packs are left here? There's about 6 per row, so I think we'll hit the halfway point. There are 18 boosters left. So buckle up tight, my friends. The rodeo is still got plenty of rodeoing, I guess. That metaphor got away from me. Instead, look at this Golden Moss champion who will tap you by boasting. His boasts are just that good. Disdainful Stroke. Super happy to have this reprint. This is a great reprint to have around for Standard. In case any huge go over the top thing ever becomes too strong. It's a 2-mana counterspell that can hit it. Really nice to have around for the format. Helps counterspell decks fight against some mid-range decks too. But I love that there is the play, right? Of hey, if there's too many, if this count really good against my deck, maybe I'll bring in some really strong 3 CMC cards. So there's some great counterplay there. Breakneck Berserker, so fast. 3-mana, 3/2 dwarf with haste. Another Sentinel, the Elderfang Disciple, Iron Verdict. This is a great one to foretell. And once again, it's not 100% a free roll, but unless you want to cast it on your turn to kill off a tapped creature, you just foretell it, pass, and leave up that 1 white mana for turns and turns to do this if you need to. It's a welcome retreat from often leaving up 4 mana for a Divine Verdict style effect. So it's great. Gold Vein Pick. Make some treasure tokens. Go mining for gold. Yeah, the Norse people did that. It's great. Good old Viking trope here. Augury Raven. Nice additional foretell card. Pretty simple, straightforward. Kind of thing you'll see on a common. 4 mana 3/3 flyer, by the way, is pretty strong on its own. So the fact that this has a built-in foretell means you'll pick this card and play it a decent amount of the time. It's very good in blue. Arachniform, yes. Spirit of the Alderguard, a little bear spirit. As I always say, some people say bears have to be 2/2s for 2. This is a 2/2 if you divide its stats, so keep that in mind. 0, 4, 2/2. Okay, it's a stretch. Anyway, you can go find any snow land card, including your dual land, so do not sleep on that. You can go find, for example, this Faceless Haven, so don't sleep on that possibility. If it's a 4 mana 3/4 that draws you a land when it comes into play, that's plenty good. And if you have a bunch of snow permanents, it can get really gnarly. So yeah, strong card. Maybe even constructed. We'll see. Oh, there he is, Herald himself. Hello, Herald. The Elf Warrior, great for an elf deck. Comes into play, draws you a new elf, smashes, and unlike a lot of other elf commanders, which you really want to stay in play, this one is interesting that you really want it to die and go away. So you can just cast it again a lot of the time. We don't make a lot of commanders like this because they become really about just making your commander die, but an elf commander seemed like a reasonable exception given that you wanted to gain value out of playing it. Fun wrinkle, also note that you can find Tyvar here. That's good with your warrior deck too, but finding Tyvar is really nice, which is the new planeswalker in the set. Green-black, or green that has a black, and it's rules text. Speaking of green-black, here is, I guess you go here, even though you're a sweet new frame. Skemfar Elder Hall, making your opponent's creatures a little bit smaller and giving you some elf warriors. Pretty good if you're in the elf deck. Or really if you're a black-green. Once again, I'll basically always play these. Hey! Let's see other pathways. There are 4 pathways in this set, continuing the cycle from Zendikar. Some people ask why there are 6 in the first set and 4 here. That's just the decision made for, looking at standard and what seemed appropriate. And, we don't often do 10 dual lands in sets, so 6-4 seemed to give us the right split there. And I just go ahead and, first of all, I didn't make the decision, but second of all, people who are playtesting the set and looking at the overall shape of standard get to make those calls. So you have 4 of them here, and this is, this will be a hot one to have. These dual lands have proven very good so far in a lot of formats. Ooh, hey, here we go. And this is our first, I think this is our first snowy foil. So check that out. Check out how the frame is back there. You see it just show up a little bit. Just enough to show that you're a little bit snowy. Nice to have a snow dual foil. That'll go in a commander deck somewhere. And Elf Warrior token. Okay. On to the next pack. Once again, we've breached the halfway point. I don't know how much longer this is going to take. I would guess we're probably going to end around 2.5 hours. We'll see how correct my prediction is. Rate my prediction level in the comments. Maybe not. I guess we're who knows? I don't want to jinx myself. Pilfering Hawk. Let's skip past all these cards that we know already. Skip. Oh, Dread Rider? I don't think we've seen this one yet. Yeah, this is once again doing that thing I mentioned earlier, where it's using your creatures from your graveyard as a resource. Icehide Troll, Giant Ox, Demon Bolt. Here's a new one. Really good removal spell for limited. This is a super high pick in limited. Probably doesn't have constructed applications, but hitting planeswalkers is a big game. Note that we started to hit planeswalkers on a lot more things at common. You saw the Serpent card also did it. And that's because in limited, want you to be able to kill off planeswalkers in limited when they come out, which happens sometimes. Sometimes you feel helpless, and we don't like that. Second, especially for newer players who are like, man, I'm losing to all my friends' planeswalkers. Are there any answers I can easily find? We want some to be things you can go out and find. And cards like Demon Bolt or the snaky swallowing card that's in the set we saw earlier are great for that. So good with card names, everyone. So good with card names when you work at Wizards of the Coast and you know the playtest card names. Agar, the Freezing Flame, right in the blue-red Giants deck. If you want to build your Giants commander deck, this is a creature you will want at your disposal as the commander, potentially, or at least as in the 99. It can draw you a bunch of cards. And then unlimited 3-mana 3/3 that draws you extra cards is pretty sweet. All that excess damage. So it's an interesting new thing that basically turns like, oh, I dealt 4 damage into your 3/3 into a good positive for you, which normally doesn't matter in Magic. So I love things that make you care about things in new ways. For example, Blasphemous Act, really good with this card. So keep that in mind. Cole the Forge Master. Hello, another legendary card here. This is fits right into the red-white deck as a dwarf. Another thing you can build around. I think once again the card is pretty self-explanatory and fits into the Norse trope of like there's the famous weaponsmith. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but the famous weaponsmith that makes a lot of these legendary weapons. That's this guy. Cool. Surtland Frostpire. Once again, I will basically always play these lands if I'm in the colors. Nothing too shocking to say here. Another Rally the Ranks. Snow-covered island. Oh, a Rootless Yew. Hello, Yew. Nice that it draws you a card when it dies, and it draws you a big creature, provided you have one in your deck with high enough toughness. Cool. Giant Wizard hanging over here with that blue equipment we saw earlier. And let's crack open another pack here. See what we got. We got a Shimmer Drift Veil. Valkyries. Keep going. This one is looking for new commons if that'll stop on. Otherwise, I'm just going to skip over them. Way Down. Once again, another card that matters from your graveyard. That makes a mana from your graveyard. Fortunately, removal spell you probably don't want to cast early anyway. So a creature's traded off, you spend a mana, you kill something. 1 mana for -3/-3 is a great rate. So another Narfi, but this time Showcase. That is great. Love the showcase frame. I just can't get over it. Every time I see it, and I just have to stop in the pack a little bit. Spirit of the Alderguard. This goes right into white-black Foretell limited deck, or the second spell, excuse me, limited deck, making 1/1 tokens. 2-mana 2/2 creatures that make tokens whenever you do a thing have traditionally been pretty playable, especially in limited and sometimes even in constructed. This one's probably not there for constructed, but maybe. I wouldn't be super surprised, and for limited, definitely strong. Like, it's a grizzly bear on its own that could potentially spit out a bunch of extra flying tokens, so it's great. Blood on the Snow. Oh no, stay away from that blood. Do not eat that. Do not eat that snow. It's a board sweeper that gives you a thing back. It's great. I don't know. I could elaborate on why that is awesome, but the fact it can kill off Planeswalkers 2 is really nice. The fact it can bring back your opponent's Planeswalkers is really nice. You'll want a lot of snow mana to cast this. It's powerful. It'll see play in Commander and probably Standard as well. Yeah, I don't know what to say. Destroying all Planeswalkers, very potent. Oops, hello. Destroying all Planeswalkers, very potent as well. People are often asking for Planeswalker answers. So in control decks, your Wraths traditionally are dead, right? You're like, oh, my Wrath of God doesn't actually do anything. My opponent doesn't have any creatures. Not the case here. You'll be able to blow up all their Planeswalkers and take one back for yourself. So yeah, expect this to see play. Oh, and then a Glacial Floodplain. All right. Speaking of Planeswalkers, we haven't opened any up yet. Let's see if we can find one here somewhere. Story Seeker. Once again, don't think too much about it. Skipping past these commons. That's... Ooh, Svella. Okay. First of all, once again, I don't know. I hope if someone's keeping track of how many times I said I love this frame, I'm sorry for your tally marker, but I do love this frame. The thing about this card that makes me so happy is the Icy Manolith. I think there were a lot of words we were talking about there, but Icy Manolith just made a smile every time. So it's very clear. It's a Manolith, but it's snow. What else do you need to know about it? Troll Commander is cool. This guy, great in your bow stack, obviously, but I will note that one thing I think is fun is even though he's not boasting himself, he does follow the boast style, aggressive flavor text. Although he's not boasting about a previous accomplishment. So it's in the same vein. Doomscar. Yeah, this is... I mean, many people have called this one of the best cards in the set, which is... I don't think that's too far off from the mark. The fact that it is a Wrath that is 3 mana later on in the game, that you can play... You can foretell on turn 2 and do right away on turn 3 if you have to. In control decks, which often don't do a lot on the second turn anyway, yeah, this card is going to be a house. This is one of the best Wraths potentially made in Magic. And I would expect this to see play in a lot of places. So, constructed players, you'll want the Doomscar. It's dangerous in the world. It's dangerous when I knock my camera. It's also very dangerous in a game of Magic. Powerful card here. There's the Sinkhole. Oh, and check out this fun token. Here's the replicated ring that we saw earlier. Hilarious. Put it on a finger. Whoop. Speaking of fingers, someone will probably ask in the comments. So let's head it off now. My thumb is like a weird shape. I always get comments about this. It's there's this thing called Brachydactyl D, I think. It's just a genetic thing. That's it. That's all it means, is that my thumb is weird. And it's only on this hand, right? Isn't this freaky? It's so strange. Anyway, but it's totally normal. All it means is I have a short, stubby thumb. Megan Fox has it. A fun fact is that she always has to get a hand double, or not always, but usually it's a hand double for her movies. Anyway, there's something you were not expecting out of this video. So, all right, keep going here. Past cards that you've seen already. Rune of Sustenance. Lifelink. Hooray. Here's the white rune. Finn the Fangbearer. Okay, this is sweet. We have poison counters making a return. It's been a while with them out, and here they are again. I think this is a very strong commander, especially in 1v1 for all of you playing competitive, like one-on-one commander decks. But also just the return of poison is big, right? There's another card in the set that really cares about poison too, in Vorinclex, which maybe we'll get to at some point. But if we're fortunate enough to open one. But I love that this makes your Death Touch stuff create poison counters. It is a huge like flavor win style card for me, and tells you to build a really unique kind of deck, right? Where you want to play like random asps or whatever that costs 1 mana. So this card's super fun. to construct a deck around. Hopefully it's not too annoying in Commander. I think I left a comment about like, well, the rush kill your opponent with random death touch creatures Commander deck might be a little frustrating. But on the flip side, then you're playing like G1/1 death touch, so it's probably okay. X-Guard Armory. Hey, it finds you any runes you might need, for example. Put that in your Boros equipment deck. The Cosmos Elixir. This is a nice one. I think Mark Rosewater said this card could be white as well, which I agree with. So happy to make it an artifact so it can go into more decks here, of course. But this kind of effect could show up in white in the future potentially, so it's pretty cool. Keep an eye out for that. But yeah, in general, this kind of thing is just always a strong game player. Play this in limited, play this in your Commander deck. Even in a constructed deck, right? This is the kind of thing that in a control mirror becomes a personal howling mine if you're not careful, if your opponent's not careful. So yeah, wouldn't be surprised to have that if that saw some play. Alpine Meadow goes over here, Master Scald, and then once again this card. One thing I want to point out, by the way, about these, you might not have noticed, the backgrounds are different on them. There are different versions of these checklist cards. I'm not going to give anything away, but I'll let you fool around with them and see what you find. Do your own research. Once you have access to the cards yourself, I guess. Easy for me to say. All right. Skipping past the commons. Ooh, except for this one. Enchanted Vehicle. What? Yeah, that's right. We made sure that you can enchant vehicles with this because otherwise they activate their vehicle. You cast this on it. It falls off at end of turn. Feels kind of sad. So enchant creatures or vehicles because there's enough vehicles in the set to make it matter. You'll see us do this when there are enough vehicles running around. Otherwise, just your normal blue combat tricky thing. This is something cool and kind of new. So I showed you earlier the green card, where if you miss on milling, you still get to draw a card. Showed you that very early on. Skull Raid is a new take on this, where your opponent discards 2 cards, but then if they don't have the cards, you get to draw cards. Which often discard spells become dead late in the game. You're like, I drew Mind Rot on turn 8. It doesn't do anything. Maybe it hits a land my opponent was bluffing with at best. This is an interesting card in that it's not dead late. In fact, it's actually exactly what you want late, which is a divination, or draw 1, they discard 1. So this card is a lot better than I think Mind Rots have been in the past. So don't sleep on this card, not just because this guy will eat you, but also just don't sleep on this card. It can be pretty strong. Glittering Frost, yes, Iron Verdict, Dark Pursuit, Gold Vein Pick, another one of these Vicious Returns, another Inga Rune Eyes, another Rune Crown, Pyre of Heroes, Birthing Pod for tribal stuff. I love Birthing Pod. I'm a huge Birthing Pod fan. It's a very fun card to play with, in my opinion, because I love toolbox decks. I get it. It was really powerful. It had to go in older formats. But anyway, I'm excited to see what shenanigans I can pull with this card. And once again, the fact that this is colorless and can go into any deck means you can finally go build whatever weird tribal deck you want, whether it's tribal like me, or if you want to, go build Assassin Tribal. Lots of fun to be had. Ooh, foil snow-covered island. That's great looking. Dig it. Super nice. All right, and a bird. Bird is the word. One time for my birthday, Ari Lax got me, this is a totally random story. One time for my birthday, Ari Lax got me 24 bird tokens. And when I opened the present and I looked at him, he just said, "The bird is the word." I think there's more to the gift too, but anyway, I was thinking about that now. Based, of course, on the infamous episode. Warhorn Blast. Pump spell with Foretell. This is the kind of thing where it's like, well, 5 mana is a little expensive, 3 mana is a pretty good deal. All of 2 mana on a turn to probably foretell this, so it's great. Miss Haggy Mob. Skipping past stuff we've seen. Kaya's Onslaught. Yeah, right, so Kaya's here, as you've probably noticed from the packs and the box art. Really happy to have her here. She's got a number of awesome talents. And in this art in particular, she's pretty good at fighting against Vorinclex. So, let's see, maybe we'll see Vorinclex in a little bit. Otherwise, once again, Combat Trick with Foretell is just a great combination. And when I pointed this out on a number of cards, but the opportunity cost on this is just so low. If you don't need to cast it this turn, you can just foretell it and wait till you're at your opponent's turn. Or another future turn. So I love these kind of cards. The little bluffing game of foretell of like, I've got 2 cards face down, you've got a card face down, what do we each have? especially once you've played the set a lot, leads to a lot of replayability and fun bluffing moments. So I dig this kind of thing. Return Upon the Tide. This is good in your elf deck, which I guess, shouldn't surprise you given it says elf in the text box. But anyway, normally you don't have a lot of big elves rolling around, so this gives you a nice bonus if you target a smaller elf of like, if you target an elf, which is usually smaller, of getting some tokens along the way, which is kind of nice. Clarion Spirit again. Gold Span Dragon. That's awesome. I was super hoping to open up one of these, actually. Giving all your treasures the ability to make 2 mana. I'm pretty sure there's like some wonky infinite combos and some pretty busted stuff you can do with this. So this is a really exciting card to me. Building a treasure commander deck sounds like a lot of fun. This with the dwarf commander that makes treasure that you can then sack to go find dragons is a really fun combo together that we opened up earlier. So yeah, happy to crack this. Glacial Floodplain, and then hey, it's a shard for Nico Eris. Okay, so one thing that I just noticed is my phone just went dark, which means it's at 5% battery. So hold on a second. I don't want it to die. That would be bad. Okay, next pack. All right, so here we are. This pack right here. Had to take a quick break there to plug my phone in because it was about to die. It turns out when you record for almost 2 hours, that happens sometimes. All right, let's see what we got here. We've got, hey, it's a new common. After all this time, we're still finding new commons. We've got this Litjara Kinseekers, which is a common that cares about having the same creature type. So great with changelings, of course, but also really wants you to find really 2 others because it counts for one of itself. So good for your tribal stuff. Cinderheart Giant. Blows up one of your opponent's things when it dies at random. This is pretty fun. We don't like to do a lot of randomness because it can be really frustrating, but a little bit can be okay, and randomly blowing up a creature, you're never going to be too sad about this one, I think. Only if it hits the wrong creature, I guess. But still, bonus creature kill. All right, flip past these guys. Forging the Tyrite Sword. Very nice. This finds Halvar, by the way, who's pretty sweet. That's another great flavor nod here. It doesn't just find equipment. You can also go find Halvar itself, the god of battle. And 3 mana makes you treasure tokens over time. It helps pay for itself, ramp you up a little bit. Not something red-white often gets a lot of, so. Provoke the Trolls. I think, what was it, Saffron Olive said? This one's for Twitter. Anyway, I like this kind of multifaceted design of like, oh, kill off your thing. It's normally a removal spell, but also it can make a thing bigger. One thing to watch out for with this card that I've seen many players misplay with similar cards is that you really want to cast this on your turn. Normally what you're taught in Magic is, oh, wait till the last possible moment to do something. Often makes a lot of sense. But if you provoke the trolls their attacking creature, and then they play a combat trick in response, wow, you're going to be really sad when their attacking creature gets +5/+0. So just don't walk into that, and don't be afraid to cast this instant at sorcery speed. That's a really important distinction. You can also, if you really need to, you can, but just be careful, especially against green decks with this. Blowing up lands. Good work, red-green. Keeping lands honest. Making a troll warrior. Ooh, Alrund's Epiphany. A foretell card that gives you an extra turn and some birdies to attack with. 6 mana, take another turn, make 2/1/1s is nothing too shabby. And yeah, I don't know what to say. It takes extra turns. Extra turns are good. I like taking turns in Magic. Snow-covered island, and then this little foretell marker goes over here. All right, on to the next booster pack. We've got another Kaya pack here. All right, let's give it past the cards we've seen before. Seen this one even. Vega the Watcher, saw you all the way back in the beginning. Kaya's Onslaught, we've seen you. Draugr Necromancer, here's our rare. A nice snow zombie. It's snow zombie, I suppose. The ability to cast stuff from your opponent's graveyard or stuff that dies, it just gives you extra card advantage in any kind of aggressive deck. Keep in mind, this is a 4 mana 4/4 on top of everything, so you can curve top your zombie deck with this real nice. And being able to, spend mana from snow sources to the cast it means that you can color wash just fine. So really want you to be in the snow deck, but any kind of mid-range snow deck, or like I said, as a curve topper in a zombie deck, this is great. Yeah, I mean, once again, I think this is just a generally strong card. It's pretty good on rate on its own. Got this volatile Ford right here. And all right, how many packs are left? I think we're down to, oh my gosh, there's still, I think, 9 booster packs left. Cranking away, but now we'll probably just get to the rare on most of these guys. When you get into the phone charging phase of the video, that's when you know it's long. Okay, skipping past these that we've all seen. Vengeful Reaper. This is a new one. Haven't seen you yet. Haste on Foretell is really interesting too, because it once again makes you want to play off curve with it a little bit and foretell it to get it out early. Because if you foretell on turn 2 and then play this turn 3 and attack, you're still doing just fine, right? You still have a flying beater in on turn 3. This card is pretty strong, I think, unsurprisingly, as a hasty flyer that can also trade with anything eventually in the air. The 2/3 lets it block on the ground pretty well. So, yeah, solid for limited. There's the Bretagard Stronghold for your green-white decks. Spectral Steel. This is another thing that works from your graveyard, so keep an eye out for it. Brings back your ores and equipment. Works well with things like runes, for example. So, yeah, exiling stuff from graveyards, very relevant here. The Cosmos Charger. So here is a card that is good in your Foretell deck. 4 mana for a 3/3 flash flyer. You know, that's a good limited rate, not really selling anything in constructed. But remember, with Foretell, you can flash it on your opponent's turn. So you can Foretell this turn 2, and then turn 3, Foretell at the end of their turn, threaten a blocker even potentially. This is a card that creates for great bluffing moments in constructed if your opponent is playing this. Because like, hey, I foretell a card on turn 2, pass to you. Do you attack on turn 3? Play foretell, pass to you, back to me, say go. Do you attack into me, knowing I could potentially be able to foretell this thing out? Or is it just like a counter spell or something like that? So a lot of good back and forth play on this one. And yeah, in any kind of foretell based strategy, this is a lot of fun. And keep in mind, you can foretell at the end of your opponent's turn with this ability as well. So it really allows you to do some pretty interesting stuff. Teferi, Mage of Zolfir is one of my favorite cards, and this is very much of that bloodline. All right, and goodbye, Elf Warrior. All right, still hunting for a Planeswalker. I haven't found any Planeswalkers yet. I'd like to find at least one here. See what we can do. Master Scald. Oh, I've seen all you. Code Spell Cleric. Hey, this is a new one. This one cares about the second spell you cast this turn. So interestingly, you're probably not going to play it as its base very often. 1 mana, 1/1 Vigilance. But if you cast that as your second spell, it is kind of a 1 mana 2/2, or you can put the counter somewhere else, which makes it even better. So this card seems really great. In fact, I know it can be pretty great in this archetype. Because just having a cheap spell to activate your second spell triggers is especially nice. So this does exactly what you want to do. Divine Gambit. Yeah, this is a card that's generated a lot of discussion. I know this card went through a lot of iteration. But one thing I want to point out is a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, how can you make this card? It is so bad. 2 things I'm going to say about this card. First is, in Limited, this card is still a card you will play and be happy with a lot of the time. Yeah, don't cast it on turn 2, but like on turn 6 or 7 or something, when your opponent is low on cards in your hand, it's just a 2 mana removal spell. It is plenty playable in Limited, and I would not be sad about playing it in my deck a lot of the time. In fact, I'd probably pick this reasonably high, as an unconditional removal spell that kills off artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. Secondly, we make a lot of cards all the time. They're not intended for constructed, in all colors. Yes, I agree that this is probably not a constructed card. You don't want to play this on turn 2 against your opponent and have them cheat something big into play. That said, I mean, it's not necessarily intended to be. We make a lot of cards that are just, whatever. I can look at a lot of the other cards in this pack. They're like, oh, this is mostly for limited, or like, kitchen table constructed. So, no, this is not Swords of Plowshares. It's not intended to be Swords of Plowshares. So that's kind of what I have to say on this card. And once again, I don't discount it in Limited. I think a lot of people have like a bad vibe about this card based on a lot of the complaints on social media. 2 mana to exile anything in the mid game with almost no downside a lot of the time is still very good. So Not good in every matchup necessarily if the game's not going to go that long, but in a lot of my white decks, I will happily play this card. Saw it coming. Super happy to have this as a counter spell. This is a very powerful counter spell. This will see constructed play. Very likely, given that you can break it over 2 turns. Foretell it on turn 2, counter later on. It's great. The Raven's Warning, a little rare saga here based on Alrund's Raven, of course. Comes with a token too, which is so nice. You get like a little bonus creature attached to it, given the first mode. The thing I love here, of course, is the last thing. Put in a creature from outside the game on top of your library, or card from outside the game on top of your library. To me, is really cool. I've always loved wishes and wish style effects, and this card is no exception. And it's cool that you kind of like your opponent can see it coming, and like it's going to happen eventually. So there's a bit of jockeying around it. So yeah, once again in tournament play, that's your sideboard. But if you and your playgroup figure out what you want to do with this with the commander, it doesn't normally work, but if you and your playgroup agree, it can work there too. Foil Valkyrie Sword, and this Alpine Meadow to round it out. Okay, taking a swig of water here. We're going to need it. We're well into hour 2. I don't think I've ever uploaded a video this long. I don't even know how long it's going to take. We'll see what time this video is ready to go. It might be a while. We'll see. If you're watching this early in the morning on Wednesday, congratulations, because it means the video didn't actually take that long to upload. All right, Pilfering. If you're watching this early in the morning on Wednesday, comment below too. Take your claim, make your status, show people how awesome you are, etc. All right, gonna skip past the cards we've seen. Fearless Liberator, though you're new, this is a creature that makes more creatures. That's my favorite kind of creature, except for Muldrifter, which makes more cards in my hand, which makes more creatures. Anyway, pretty solid boast card. Any creature that makes more creatures, I always like them because in any kind of aggressive deck, right, you're worried about running out of gas. The fact that this replaces itself, like you can attack and trade with it, and you can still pay 3 mana to make a bonus creature out of the deal, and your opponent kind of has to deal with it. So once again, probably not constructed, although it's not totally out of the question, but in limited, really love this card. The 3 seasons. Yes, this shows how the seasons oscillate over time. This was another, I believe this was a carving or done by Adam Paquette. So phenomenal job there, Adam. Great in the green-blue snow deck. And it just gives you a lot of utility. If you do have if you have snow cards in your graveyard early, or you mill them away, you're fortunate enough to do so. Drawing 2 cards for 2 mana is awesome. In the late game, this is really great because it is next turn, get back 2 of your best cards. And then it also, once again, has a bit of graveyard hate, which is relevant here in a lot of ways. Path to the World Tree. I know when I saw this card, I smiled. I really thought it was cool to have a card out uncommon, which is going to train wreck all of my drafts by having that 7 mana activation of all 5 colors. Because I know I shouldn't do it, right? I just know I shouldn't, but I'm going to try. The fact that it gets me a basic land, it's possible to resist. So I look forward to your drafts also being train wrecked by this. Hey, it's another Pathway. Sweet. The black-red Pathway. Very cool. All right, I'm getting worried about the stack of cards. You think it's going to fall over? Place your bets on if it's going to fall over before the end of this. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right. All right, we have a bunch of cards we've seen already. Skipping past these. Rune of Mortality. Give me that touch. Another Sfella. Another Faceless Haven. Hey, we've seen everything in that pack before. That was a quick one. That's bringing up my time average. Yeah, I know that the large stack of cards makes some people a little bit nervous. I wanted to keep them on camera. Maybe I should just take them off camera. I don't know. You tell me in the comments below. Give me your feedback on the booster opening video. What would you like to see differently? We've got a lot more product to open, so I want to do it in a way that will make you happy. Once again, let's see what we got here. Here's, this in packs in, still finding a new common. Shackles of Treachery. This is our Active Treason variant, which is just Active Treason. Hooray. But it can blow up its own equipment, which is kind of funny. It's a neat little flavor thing to do here. And it's pretty powerful too, right? When you kill off your opponent's strong equipment, especially if it has, say, a rune on it or something like that, it can make a big difference. So this doesn't really move the needle on how often you would play Active Treason anyway. You're not going to be like, yes, Equipment Destroyer, put it in. Although if your opponent has a good equipment, you might. But keep in mind, this is like really good against the equipment that come into play with creatures, right? Because those are going to be pretty playable and you can blow it up right away. So it has a bit of extra utility you can sideboard in. But also, if you're playing an aggressive red deck, it's all the more, you get all the more excitement around playing this card in your deck, which you'll play sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. Raven Form. Yes, this is a much discussed card. Could this have been white? I would say yes. Yes, this could have been white. And I know Rosewater talked about this pretty extensively. And I don't think in the future you'll be seeing more effects like this in blue, or at least not in the future I'm thinking about right now. So, yeah, killing off the artifact in blue is a little bit beyond what I would personally prefer, but obviously a lot of discussions were had. One thing I think is worth noting too is Ari Nie, who's been pulling for a lot of the white changes to Magic. And it's not just him, there's a whole team, but Ari's been doing really great work. He didn't really start working as the Council of Colors representative for white until late in Strixhaven design. So a lot of his stuff you're not even going to see for a little while yet. So you'll start to see some more shifts happening. But it's just going to take a while. I know that seems weird that we've been talking about it for so long and it's still going to take a while, but that's part of the deal with us working so far in advance. It just takes time. So anyway, there are my thoughts. It is still a strong card though. And, it's a play in limited. It's pretty good in limited. Maybe it's constructed. We'll see. I'm not like angry about this card existing or anything like that, but just, oh yeah, exile target artifact. Blue probably shouldn't be doing that. So anyway, more discussion for another time, perhaps. Maybe I'll make a whole episode about that. Bound in Gold, yes. This is actually, we haven't seen this one before, but arrest variants are always very strong and limited. And the fact this can't crew vehicles or activate its abilities makes it a very strong arrest style variant. So, yeah, I don't know. It's good removal and limited is good. That's my Reddit comment on that card. Shield or Shepherd of the Cosmos brings back small things, and it is an angel, and you can foretell it. This is a I don't know, it's strong in any kind of sacrifice deck to bring back a 2-mana thing with a sacrifice trigger. For example, the one that die or a dies trigger. Excuse me. For example, the one that dies to make it 1/1 token. And a 4-mana 3/3 flyer, as mentioned earlier, is always pretty strong. So if you can foretell this on turn 2 and drop it on turn 4, even without the trigger, don't feel like you have to hold this card. Just get that flyer out sometimes, and it's going to be pretty good. Herald unites the elves. Oh, here it is. Good work, Herald, uniting those elves. Once again, note the call out to specific characters, which really helps bring the whole flavor of the world to strong resonance for me, with calling out Tyvar, Tyvar Kell, of course. Turboing into Tyvar with this card, if you hit it on like turn 4, you're going to feel like a genius. Anyway, if you're drafting elves, this is a card you're really happy to have. If you're playing constructed, this is a card you're really happy to have in your elf deck. Reanimating an elf, making your elves bigger, killing off your opponent's stuff, all awesome things. Black-green elves, get your Lorwyn buddies around, get your core set, whatever core set that was, Magic Origins, I guess, buddies around, Herald of the Pack. It's time for Herald to unite the elves, and it's a pretty sweet card. I look forward to trying to build elves in Standard. I know that'll be a lot of fun. I always love trying Tribal in Standard, and this set it up pretty well. All right, Jarl of the Forsaken. Skip past all the stuff we haven't seen yet. There's Herald again. Normal looking Herald this time though, not the showcase version. And the Icebreaker Kraken, who we got the Seattle Krakens to preview, by the way, which I thought was an amazing win for a preview card. It's funny that Kraken is here because we saw Krakens in Theros, and a lot of people think about Krakens as a Greek thing, thanks to like Clash of the Titans and things like that. But actually, Krakens are Nordic originally, so it makes a lot of sense to put one in the Nordic sense. So, get your friends on that piece of trivia. Krakens are not Greek, they are Nordic, and that's why one's here. And of course, Snowy, breaking out the ice. Makes total sense for this card. These guys go here. Ooh, and a foil Masked Vandal to boot. Perfect. All right. 3 packs remain. Let's see what we find in our last 3 boosters. What will we find? Looking for more gods or planeswalkers would be out of level. Although I'm pretty happy with my box already. I can't complain too much about what we have. I'm just greedy, I guess. Rune of Flight, giving things flying. Oh, hey, and there's this Elven Bow, too. This is the green version of this. Once again, lower to the curve, because if you're building stuff for elves, you're going to want the lower the curve version. Lower the ground version for your elf deck. And so for 3 mana, you get a 2/3 reach, which is a totally reasonable elf. Leave this equipment behind. Yeah, totally solid and limited. Rune of Flight, hooray. It's the blue rune, there it is. Arnie slays the troll. Thank you, Arnie, for this. It's a red-green uncommon saga. It's a great removal spell, unlimited. Probably not constructed, but still pretty nice. Drop this one, and then we have. Okay, well, I kept asking for a Planeswalker, and I asked for Nico at the beginning, and my faith has been rewarded. Here is a borderless Nico Eris. I'm so excited to open them. This is really... I'm so happy. This is great. I mean, Nico's a character I'm very excited about having in Magic. And it is mechanically really, really unusual. It does a lot of very strange stuff. It makes those shard tokens. There's no reminder text on here to tell you what the shard tokens do, but they're enchantment tokens that allow you to well, I can pull out the token here. Oops, I tilt my phone in the process, maybe. Just to show you what the shard token looks like. Here's the shard token. We saw it earlier. You can stack it to scry 1 and draw a card. And yeah, this makes me super happy. We're really excited to slam this in decks and build it. XWU mana cost, like it's just a wild looking planeswalker, and this one will be a lot of fun. Wow, okay, that I'm stoked about. Woo! I know I'm running out of energy because it's late, but I still got energy late in the video. Right, doing this for over 2 hours, but this was a great way to pick up some energy toward the end. Woo! Borderless Nico Eris makes me very, very happy. What do you all out there think about Nico? Are you excited about them? Do you like their card? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, 2 packs left. Well, that was a great way to round out this box. Everything else is just gravy at this point. I mean, those borderless planeswalkers are pretty... You know, you don't open those up very often, so... Let's see what we got. See if there's anything more amazing in our future here. Ooh, Usher the Fallen. This is a card that is going to be, I think, cubable. First of all, it's like a great replacement for any Savannah Lions and Elite Vanguards running around because it curves perfectly. This on turn 1, make a token on turn 2. As I mentioned earlier, love when creatures replace themselves. But I would expect this to show up in Standard, too, if there's any kind of white aggressive deck. It's just so strong. Glimpse the Cosmos. Yes. Anticipate. With Giant bonus. This is a 2-for-1 if you ever control a Giant over the course of the game, which is pretty likely if you're playing blue. So I love this card. I think that this card is phenomenal. It's pretty easy to make this 3 mana. Look at your top 6 and take 2, right? So yeah, you just pick this one up. It's pretty good. It's probably even constructed worthy if there's any good Giants that end up making it, which I think there will be given some of the stuff we've been talking about so far. Oh, here's the Showcase Carter. Well, here's what I'll build my Commander deck around. I've got a Commander game this weekend with Mara plays Magic and Talia and Hall and a couple others. So maybe I'll build around one of these new Kaldheim cards and blow their minds. We'll see. The Blood Sky Massacre. Sounds like a really friendly place, a really friendly event. Glad I didn't have to live through that one myself. This is a saga that comes in with a 2/3 itself. So it's basically a 3 mana 2/3 with a lot of upside on it. Fun fact, my first one of the I don't know about the first draft, but the last draft was the last draft? Maybe it was the last draft I did. The last draft I did in Kaldheim, one of the drafts had this in it. I drafted a red-black aggressive deck with Carter and the Blood Sky Massacre, and it felt awesome. So this card brings back memories for me, which I know is weird for you to hear, given that you're seeing these cards, for some of the first times right now. But there you go. All right, 1 pack left. What is in this last pack? If you've been here for all 2 hours and 20 minutes, congratulations. Post something below. I don't know, whatever the thing is you want to post below. What's this? Post the name of your favorite rogue character in fiction. I don't know. If you made it this far, Congratulations. I am mind blown. You are so much dedication. This is like the Gavin fireplace video. You just left it up in the background or something. I really appreciate you sticking around this long. All right, Glorious Protector. Exile any number of non-angel creatures you control till it leaves the battlefield. It's non-angel, by the way, because we don't want to loop with itself. We saw this with Restoration Angel, for example. But this has very much echoes of Restoration Angel. It pseudo blinks some stuff. You don't get it back right away, but you can hit a lot of different things. It's really good against a Wrath, right? You play it against a Wrath, you protect all your stuff. It dies, it comes back. All the other stuff comes back. Good with trying to set up ETB triggers. A lot of fun to be had here. And if you're playing a deck with blinks in it already, well, hey, slam this down, exile all your other stuff, blink the Glorious Protector, all your other stuff comes into play, you get all their ETB abilities, then you get to exile them all again with the Protector, so it's really good in that kind of strategy. And the fact that it's a 4-mana, 3/4 flash flyer, this seems like I would imagine this will show up in Constructed, and probably Commander games as well. So there you have it. We emptied out the box. We got, oops, tilted it. I'm charging my phone right now because it's taken so long. Open up all these sweet cards. We're so excited about this. Nico. Lots of cool stuff here. Here's just, the greatest hits looking back at the rares. Anyway, thank you for sticking with me for so long, everybody. I really appreciate it. Let me know what product you want me to open up in the next video down below. And they'll be out on Friday. So I will talk with you again on Friday. Give me any thoughts that you have. We open up another Kaldheim product. And until next time, may you always enjoy the stuff you're seeing in your Kaldheim set. I don't know. I couldn't come up with it. It's been 2 hours and 15 minutes. I don't have a clever sign off. Here's what I'm gonna do for a sign off instead. Check this out. I hope no one is terrified, because I'm gonna knock this staff over. All right, everyone. Take care, and remember, you got this.
The color intensity really mattered too. You can see some red frames here. We wanted to make sure we weren't diluting our colors. We wanted to make sure it was still that distinguishable red. And then the bottom are actually from the Swamp Basic lands. We didn't know what type of texture we wanted to apply to those because most snow cards don't have that mana symbol there, so we got to treat those a little differently.